Kathleen, it's not on, right?
No, but if
No,
the TV's on, Mrs. Jablonski will let you know.
Oh, okay, so you'll wait.
He's all set. He's just gone down to
Oh, to click
hit the
it on.
switch.
Thank you for your help.
Right, I'm gonna do that first thing.
Yeah, I just would like to take 2 seconds at the very, very beginning, and because of Kathleen's announcement.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
But then, very first thing, I'll call on you for. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to take a minute at the very beginning, because as treasurer of the school district and also as chair of the budget committee, I wanted to just express great thanks to Kathleen and the good works, and wish her well in her new position, because there've been a significant number of improvements. Both Kathleen and Sue have worked diligently together in a short period of time that they've implemented. I think that's worthy of noting. I don't know that anybody understands what asset tags are and use of purchase orders and timely reconciliation of bank statements. But some people do.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we on?
Yeah, we're on, Rod.
Oh,
We're
we're
on,
on?
Ron.
Oh,
Yep.
very good. Well, welcome to everybody at home. This is the January 5th, Saturday, Budget Committee meeting. The meeting, we will be reviewing minutes, acting on Budget Committee applicants, reviewing the school budget, reviewing the capital improvement program, discuss the role of the Budget Committee in the financial review and in future meetings, discuss the Budget Committee schedule, and other business. At this time, I would like to publicly, as chairperson of the Budget Committee and treasurer of the school board, express regrets that Kathleen Murphy, our superintendent, is moving along, but it's with great excitement that we see somebody from our own town move to state government, and as Linda Menegani has mentioned, it's a win-win for the community. We'll have somebody at the state level that we'll be able to work with as we strive to further put our children's education in the forefront in our community. As treasurer, I'd like to say that for those who do not know, there have been significant improvements in process over the last 2-3 years, and both Sue and Kathleen can have great pride in instituting what other school districts are still instituting, which are asset controls, purchase orders, department review of purchasing before it happens, and timely reconciliation of bank statements. So, on that note, thank you very much, and best of luck. Now, as part of other business, we do have another matter, and Gary, I think you would like to talk to that for a minute?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we remove William Hollis from the committee. He hasn't attended any meetings.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion to remove a member of the committee who has been absent since its beginning?
I guess my question is, do we have the authority to do that? The town charter does state that the council can remove any member of any committee that has missed 4 consecutive meetings, and I'm just questioning whether this is within our scope of authority to remove that, or whether it should be done through what the charter states.
Well, let's suggest that the process be that we follow through with this, and that we look for affirmation from all those parties in the town government to affirm the action as being appropriate. Is there other conversation? All in favor?
Yeah, I do have a couple of things. What have the discussions as chairperson that have you had with Bill about his absenteeism, or have you had any discussions?
Yes, I
with him?
have. And the first conversation was, I won't be there because I have softball games. The second one was, I won't be there until after the first of the year because I have work commitments. It's now after the first of the year. Normally, I receive emails from him telling me exactly what's going on. This time, I had no email whatsoever, no communication whatsoever. It's after the first of the year.
Has he received the budget book or anything like that? Do you know if he's?
The budget books are picked up. It's the responsibility of the budget member. Has Bill come and picked up
No.
his budget book? I know in some ways it may feel to somebody, wow, I'm being removed from a committee. It may feel like, why didn't somebody tell me ahead of time? But the young man's not been around to talk to. Kind of hard.
And I guess, as Leo pointed out, I don't know what our authority is on doing that, so I'm not terribly comfortable voting on this, not knowing. That's my feeling.
Is that an abstention, a negative vote, or?
Yeah, I guess it's an abstention if
Okay. All righty.
the vote.
Yes.
I believe what you're going to find out is this board should take a vote on the willingness or unwillingness to remove him, and then present it to the council, because I do believe the council has the final say on removals.
Okay.
But I think it it would be basically either through a resignation presented by the individual, or if the board takes a majority vote to have him removed,
Okay.
him or her.
And so an appropriate action would be to send the recommendation forward for affirmation by all those approving authorities for the action.
Yes.
Okay. Is there further conversation? Are we ready to vote on that?
So I guess
The motion,
I'm looking at the motion. Is the motion to remove or the motion to recommend his removal? I mean, we have to have a motion.
We're going to recommend for the removal. We're going to
Motion is gonna be to
recommend
Yeah,
for
I can-
removal.
I can
Okay.
alter that. I can make the motion to recommend removing Bill Hollis.
And to forward the information, to forward our recommendation to
Right.
town council
Town
for
council.
their approval.
To the approving bodies. Want to make sure that if it's town
That's-
council and/or anybody else, that they're included in it. Are we ready to vote? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So the recommendation will go forward to remove a non-participating member of the board. And thank you very much.
Rod, just
Yes.
so you know, there's RSA around that too.
Okay.
RSA 3215, Budget Committee membership addresses that issue, and in fact, but I don't know how the charter is written and how that implicates with this RSA, but there's clear steps in terms of that in the RSAs.
Okay. Is there a step that possibly we have left out of our
Well, the appointment is
process?
made by the moderator. So
Okay.
your moderator makes the appointment.
Okay.
I think that's the way, but our charter
See, I just don't know how
does
that.
supersede when the town does an action,
right.
they can supersede it like a lot of things do.
Right, but I don't believe that this committee does that. I think it does go through.
I think the charter's quite specific on removal of all, because basically, we're not only removing them from school budget, we're removing them for town budget committee. as
Well, yes, exactly.
It's basically a removal of all.
And thank you for that. Yes, thank you for helping, at least me to even understand that, because there's both the school side and the town side. So where the moderator on the school side, it would be the town council on the town side. So all parties will affirm the action. Okay. Thank you very much. I know that's not something to be taken lightly, nor is it an easy action to deal with first thing in the morning. Our next item of business is that we have applicants to the Budget Committee, and I'd like to welcome you to step up to the microphone. And Bill, if you'd like to go first, since you're sitting in front of Al, and then to the microphone, introduce yourself. Maybe if you'd be so kind, if some of us had a question or two, we'd be glad to ask you. And this is it's a small town, so we're all friends.
My name is Bill Connor. I live at 295 Wadley Falls Road, Newmarket. I've owned property there since 1997 and built a home and moved in 1999. Did you want some background?
If you feel it's beneficial, please, and don't be modest.
Never have been. I'm a 1966 graduate of Wesleyan University, Middletown, Connecticut. I was a captain in the United States Air Force until 1970. I graduated the Worcester Polytech School of Industrial Management in 1976. In 1977, I started my own business, and I owned and operated that through 2005. And my wife was on the Budget Committee for a number of years.
I remember serving with her. That was a pleasure, yes. Are there other questions that people might have?
What was your business? I didn't realize you.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
What was your business? I didn't realize you had your own business.
The who?
Your business.
What was your business that you owned and operated
It's
for?
it's called CNC Machining Incorporation. It was a manufacturer's rep agency, rep foundries, machine shops, plating shops, primarily dealing in industrial valves and pumps.
Thank you.
Bill, have you served on any previous boards at all?
No.
Nothing whatsoever?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Have you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
Can-
yeah, please.
Have you been kind of keeping up with have you seen our meetings on the TV and kind of know what's going on so far with the?
I'm sorry.
Have you been watching our meetings and keeping up and kind of know where we are in the budget process?
Yeah, my wife was on for 3 or 4 years, so I'm intimately involved with what the Budget Committee does.
Any other questions? Thank you. And Al, is it pronounced Zink?
Yep.
If you'd like, oh.
I've
what-
got handouts.
Oh, wonderful.
It's just the letter of introduction and application.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Al Zink, 22 Smith Garrison Road. My background, I graduated with a degree in English in boy, this is tough. I didn't realize you were going to go through the chronology. In 1970, I served in the Coast Guard from 1970 to 1974. Got an MBA from George Washington University in '74 as well. My career is really been mostly in the corporate world. I worked at Parker Brothers Game Company in Salem, Massachusetts for about 16 years. I was VP of Administration. And I had responsibility for human resources and the legal department and facilities. We had about a $10 million budget. When I left Parker Brothers, I went to the footwear company, Atonic Triton Puma, and was there for about 4 years. Similar position. I was again VP of Administration. I also had distribution in our manufacturing facility in Richmond, Maine. Following that, I did executive search for 6 years, and then started Newmarket Properties with my son about 6 years ago. And we do real estate development in Cambridge, primarily building rehabs, condo developments. And please don't ask me how the condo market is. And we are still doing it. And I recently had the pleasure of serving on the Town Administrative Search Committee. And that was really my first involvement in the town, and it was a great experience. And what I'd like to do is just continue in some kind of area of responsibility to keep helping the town. It was a great experience. I enjoyed it. And I think you'll all agree, I think we got a pretty good product out of the search committee as well with Ed. So that's my background.
Thank you, Al. And I do know how hard it is to stand in front of a camera and in front of people, so.
Cameras are on?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Do we have some questions from this direction? Yes, Mike.
Just to be fair, I know you mentioned you were on the Town Administrative Search Committee. Have you served on any other boards, anyplace else?
I have
or-
not.
You have not?
I moved from Kensington about almost 5 years ago, and I'm an EMT. I was an EMT. So I served on the fire department in Kensington for 6 years as an EMT firefighter, but nothing.
Was that a volunteer or it was?
Mm.
Are there other questions?
And I guess, are you used to working with budgets and, have you done that with your previous positions? And have you been involved at all in terms of, watching our meetings or being part of the deliberative session in terms of kind of what we go through the budget process here in town?
The answer to the first part of your question is yes, extensively. The budget at Parker Brothers that I was responsible for we had about 3,000 employees. So all the salary budgets, benefit budgets, legal department budgets, relocation budgets, those were my budgets. So those and same thing at Atonic Triton Puma and at Newmarket Properties. Every nickel and every dime, because it's our company. Mm-hmm. In terms of your budget process, no, I have not. This is brand new to me. I think the benefit is it's a fresh set of eyes. The negative is that I'm not at all involved in understanding the intricacies of your budget, our budget.
Are there other questions? And thank you, Al.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Thank
very,
you.
very much. And it's really a pleasure to see that there's interest in serving on the Budget Committee. Thank you both very, very much for. There are recommendation and how we proceed. We have 2 openings. Do we want to consider the gentlemen individually, or do we want to consider them in total? What's our best process at this point in time? Yes.
I think we only have one opening officially right now,
Oh, okay.
correct?
I agree. I think that really we have one opening that we've had all along.
Mhm.
And I think we would have a second opening once the town council goes through their due process.
Okay. We can follow that.
And they would, whatever, who gets nominated would serve only after they,
After the process.
well, and after they get sworn in by the town clerk.
Absolutely. Is that, and for the viewers at home, we have a process where the first conversation that we had, which is the asking a member to step down because they're not in attendance, that needs to be approved. The second process is to fill the vacancy that we do have. The third process is after the vacancy is filled, they'll be sworn in. After the person that is chosen is sworn in, then they're able to serve on the committee. And after the approval of the retirement of the non-attending member, then we're able to add the other individual who would at that time be sworn in. Any objection to taking action in anticipation of acceptance of the resignation of our request to retire somebody who's in non-attendance? All I'm looking at is,
I don't think we can do that.
okay,
I would recommend not doing that.
okay. I'm not in government side of business, so
Yeah.
I'm in a can-do, we gotta get the laundry out, so let's just get things done, so. All righty. Sure.
This position that we would vote, nominate someone for and vote on today is until May, and then they run for
Absolutely.
reelection.
Absolutely.
And in the future, Mr. Hollis's position, would that person fill it until Mr. Hollis's position, or just until May?
Just until May,
Okay,
just
so
until
both
May.
positions would be until May.
Yes, yes. My understanding on any political office, it's only for the remaining
Okay.
until the election comes up, and then at the time the election comes up.
Well, I'd like to nominate Al Zink.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I have a point of order. Mr. O'Connor was the first one to contact us in regards to becoming a member of the committee, and I think we should give credence to the fact that he's the first one to go through the process. So I would nominate Mr. O'Connor.
Oh, okay. So there's a nomination for each individual. Discussion?
Mine has
Oh,
not been
wait a minute.
seconded, by the way.
By the way, I didn't, did I hear a second on the first
Yeah,
nomination?
Linda. Yes.
Linda, and yeah. Do I hear a second on the second nomination?
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Conversation.
I guess the way it's set now, I would suggest that we vote for both members, and the member, both applicants, and the member who has the most votes gets the present opening, and the next one would get the opening when the process for removal is completed.
Which is fine, except that I think that when you make motions, you know, when a motion is made and seconded, you need to vote on that motion first before another motion can be made and seconded.
But what we have.
I have a motion, too. I have a right to make a motion.
Yes, you do.
Wait a second. What we have right here is we have a process where we have two applicants for a position. And we have two motions seconded for that same position. Okay, so, and then after, since they're both seconded it, after we have our conversations, we would vote on electing one of those two. So, this intrigues me, this process, Leo, that we go ahead and try to do this in the most collaborative fashion possible, that we have two applicants, we have two openings. We really would like to honor we have residents that would like to serve on committees, and it's important that we really embrace those people's efforts.
My comment is I have no objection to either gentleman, but all I'm saying that is that we were contacted first by Mr. O'Connor, and as a result, I think that he should be given the first seat. Second seat should then go to Mr. Zink.
Yeah,
And that's my
but-
only comment. Number two, Mr. O'Connor has said that he has been active in following the efforts of the Budget Committee, and seems to be able to, might be able to contribute right away, where Mr. Zink, like myself last year, needs to be brought up to speed.
And thank you. On your first statement, when there are openings, I'm not aware of the first one gets the first seat, and I don't think that's a democratic process. On the second one, yes, we appreciate the fact that Bill has stayed current, is what I heard, and he mentioned that, and thank you for your advocacy.
In the spirit of compromise, I'd like to offer to Rick that we both withdraw our motions and nominate both individuals, and the chairman can call a vote by name. That way they're both having an opportunity to be voted on.
I have
Is
no
that-
problem, I have no problem with that whatsoever,
So I'll withdraw my motion.
and I withdraw mine.
Okay, and Mike, I know you had your hand up.
I was just going to add how generally the council does it when you have more than one
Okay.
applicant for a position. Theoretically, you can vote for both the applicants if you choose
Okay.
on the first vote. If it is a tie after the first vote, then you're required to vote for one and only one.
Okay.
Just so you're aware of the procedure that the council uses. Because it does happen. I mean, you have two very good people that are looking to become board members, and, some people, everybody may say they're in favor of it on the first vote. But at this point, you only have the one position available, so you have to, if it's a tie, you have to choose one.
I think this basically is showing one of our deficiencies in that we did have years back, but we have no rules of procedure for the budget committee like we should have and like all other boards have. And I think at some point, we should be putting together a rules of procedure for this. So when items like this comes up, we go by what our rules say rather than make up our rules as we go along.
And you're absolutely correct, Leo, that running a committee is different than running a town meeting. I'm familiar with running town meetings where the body that comes to the town meeting has the authority and they make the decisions there, yeah. I think that's a point well taken.
So I'd like to make another motion to nominate Al Zink and Bill Connor for the current position,
Current position or current open positions?
current open position. There's only one.
Second.
Thank you.
So we're going to be voting, our vote is going to be for two people for one position with that motion, correct?
I would think that the chairman, because we have no procedure, I'm just trying to make this simple, not complicated, would call the first name and then the second name, and you vote for the one of your choice since there's only one position. Is that,
Both of them.
or both of them? you're
Mr.
saying?
Chair,
Yeah,
could I
from-
be of some assistance?
Yes, absolutely.
I just want to make a point to help you.
Sure.
First of all, you do have rules. You use Robert's rules. And Robert's rules in a committee allow you to place names in nomination, not a motion, okay? Because that's what, you had two motions before, and that's what was not right. But what you can do is place each name in for nomination as a committee, and then you close nominations. You don't have any more applicants, so you close it, and then you vote. And as Mike said, you can vote for both. If there's a tie, then you're going to have to make a decision. But and you call a roll. How many vote in favor of candidate A? How many vote in favor of candidate B? Tally up your votes and you're done. And that's fairly a common practice as Robert's rules apply to committees. I don't know if that's any help, Rod, but.
Well, it is. It's a big help because I think what we're really trying to be here is respectful. it's so nice that we've had two people show up. And what we'd really like to do is be very respectful and to just process. I've been trying to figure out on the budget timeline here the reality. When do we meet next? And these other processes that need to take place for the second person, will they all take place in time that both people would be on board in time for the next budget committee meeting? And that's the page I'm on right now. Because if we have this interest, I think the important thing is to embrace the interest of people who want to participate. I'm not able to discern that by looking at the time schedule, nor do I understand the processes. But I do know there's a town council meeting going on at this time, right? So I suspect after this vote here, it would be easy for to excuse myself, turn the meeting over to the vice chair, go to the town council meeting, and say that I have an item of other business that's come up, and ask them to take action on that.
I don't think you can.
Why not?
It's not a posted meeting. You're asking them to do something out of the scope of the meeting. I think the earliest that anything could be done would be on a week from Wednesday, because unless you can get it added into this coming Wednesday, which is basically just another budget.
Then what I would do is excuse myself, go to the meeting, interrupt the meeting, and say, as a matter of other business, I'd like to put on your agenda so that as soon as you can take action on it, because we have two people that have come and are willing to be participants in an important process in the town. And if there's no objection, I think that's how I'd like to end this process. We'll go into the voting process, and as chairperson, we'll vote, and then we'll do the hard thing. We'll rank number one person, number two person, but then I'll excuse myself, go to the town council meeting, and say that there's been some action taken in this committee meeting, and we'd like to ask that your committee put on your agenda the affirmation of, and because the chairperson of the school budget is here, the school board is here, that person already is hearing the message. And then I think what we've done is, in a short period of time, really improved our budget committee, as we've added two knowledgeable people that will bring skills and talents that will add to our work. Is there any objection? And I do thank you, Kathleen, for the... So we have a motion. We have two nominees. I will...
I think excuse me, but I think we gotta withdraw, I'm gonna withdraw my second, and she withdraws her motion, and we just make nominations.
Correct.
That's- I think
Okay.
that's what
Right.
Kathy said.
Okay, thank you.
So I withdraw my second.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
And there's a nomination made?
I'll nominate Al Zink.
And I'll nominate Bill Connor.
Thank you very much. And then we'll go into the voting. The first person was nominated. All people in favor of Al Zink, please signify by saying aye.
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 Maybe we ought to raise hands.
I think we need to raise hands. All those in favor of Al Zink? We have 5. Did I count 5? Okay. And all in favor of Bill Connor? What's that, 6? Okay. So, in order, it's Bill Connor and then Al Zink. And we thank you both. And at this point, I'll excuse myself and go down to the town meeting and
Rick, you're gonna take over the meeting.
the town councilman. I don't know, is this a good time to go over the minutes? Or?
All right, while he's gone. I need a motion to accept the minutes of the December 17th meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Motion made by Lorian and seconded by Leo. Comments?
I just want to correct the spelling of my name. Which is easy to do because we have a Lorraine Jablonski. And my name's spelt very similar, but there's 2 N's in my name.
Right.
Everything else is correct. The I and the A are in the right place, which is usually which gets mixed up, but
I
2
thought
N's.
the I went before the A.
Also, Bill Hollis is listed as
Lorriane,
president.
that's the way it's spelled. Lorria.
He should be
Yeah,
listed
but
as
she
absent.
spelled it as AI. You
Right.
spelled it
William,
AI.
William Hollis is
Usually
listed
that's
as
how
vice
they do
president.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
He should be listed as
That's the
absent.
way Lorraine spells hers.
Is yours right on your birth certificate?
Yep,
Yes.
William Hollis is listed as absent instead of present.
correct.
I guess page 2, the bottom paragraph, the sentence is not complete. First sentence, Leo Fillion asks who should be administering the school capital improvement program. The capital improvement program should be added after school. And legal opinion, the next sentence, legal opinion stated that the town capital improvement program had no jurisdiction over the school.
That the town council?
The town capital improvement program committee.
The town CIP.
The CIP that the town has adopted as the town capital improvement program committee as defined by our legal counsel, and it's not the CIP for the whole process like the budget committee is.
Can I ask you, after your name, Leo Fillion asked if who, or just asked who?
Who, the if should be removed.
Okay. Any other changes? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The minutes are approved as amended. I think what has to happen is you have to be sworn in by Becky Benvenuti before you could sit on the council. I mean, on the budget committee, by the way. So, in Al's case, you just have to be approved by the, Hallis's have, being taken off the budget committee has to be approved, and then you would do the same thing. You have to be approved by sworn in by Becky Benvenuti. Okay? So, as soon as you get that done, then you could sit on the committee.
I'm sorry, I have trouble hearing it.
Okay. What I'm saying is that you have to be sworn in by Becky Benvenuti down the hall or across the hall. All right. Once the town council approves Mr. Hallis's removal from the committee, then Al, you would have to do the exact same thing because both of you have been nominated and approved by the budget committee. Okay? Just to let you both know. Okay.
Rick, I believe that position has to be posted.
Okay, well, the town council will make that decision.
No, not budget committees and planning boards and whatever, by charter. They made that charter change a few years ago, that they appoint either resigning or committees.
Absolutely, but you have to let the community know that there's another opening on the budget committee. I mean, you have to let people know. That's all I'm saying, Leo.
We've never done it in the past, let's put it that way. When Lois, or when who's the other ones that have been approved in the past, they showed up at the committee and
They were posted, Leo.
It was posted.
It was
yeah.
posted.
it was posted.
Yeah, it was on TV, it was on, down here on the bulletin board.
I knew there was one vacancy.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you're gonna have to just double check that, just a point of information.
I'm going to skip over the review of the school budget for a second. The review of the capital improvement program, you don't have copies of that because it hasn't been presented to the town council yet. I will tell you as chairman of the capital improvement committee that and Leo was also a member, that the capital improvement program has been finished by the committee and is ready to be presented, and at 2:00 today, I'm going upstairs to make that presentation to the town council. Once that's done, I imagine we'll be able to review it as part of the.
No, actually, their capital improvement program committee, their capital improvement program has nothing to do with our CIP committee.
The town, I said. Not
I
the-
think he's going by
Not
the
the
agenda.
school.
Oh, I'm
And that's a
sorry.
town, he's talking about the town CIP.
Oh, I thought we were talking, that was for about school capital improvement program.
No, it just says review of the capital improvement program, so I presumed it was the town. But if I'm incorrect, then at least I'm telling you what happened and that, what's happening now.
Well,
Okay.
and in my world, it was both. Capital improvement program with the budget committee, so I should have put an S on the word, sorry for the confusion.
Oh,
Sorry to
Minutes have been
interrupt.
approved
Oh, wonderful, thank you.
as amended.
Good, thank you so much. And, yes, I think that town council and the members are well aware that we have 2 applicants, and we have 1 vacancy now and 1 vacancy as soon as the approval of the removal. And I believe Becky Benvenuti's the town clerk, and she's the young lady that can swear you in.
I did tell them that.
Okay. So. And had you just wrapped up on the capital improvement for the town side, or?
The town side, I said that I'm presenting it today to the town council.
Okay. Is there any highlights, Leo and Rick, from that process that you both have been involved in?
well, I guess the basic then is the present town council capital program tried to stay consistent with what has been done in the past. We've been trying to keep the capital improvement program recommendations to between 900,000 and $1 million, and that's what we did this year. We made the initial proposals was for, I think, 1.3 million or something, and we cut it back to
82,000.
982,000, and these are just recommendations that will go to both the town council and to the budget committee. And as recommendations, the town council will either do what they want with it, and they will have their recommendations to the budget committee, and the budget committee will make the final determination as to what capital improvement program number will be presented to the voters at deliberative session.
Yes.
What did you guys cut out of there to bring the recommendation down?
Little of this, little of that.
Several
tried-
items, basically.
Yeah, we did.
There was, basically what we first did is put in everything that we felt was critical, that needed to be done now, and then we took out, removed some items that were further, like a new truck was just bought. Well, this following year, we dropped that to 0 and increased the next 6 years' amount to make up for that. And guess there was a lot of that shifting around basically on long-term, and there was some items that had never really, they were wish lists sort of, that had never really been approved by any board, and some of those were reduced.
So.
Let me
so
just add one thing, if you will, that what we did was, for the first time from what I could see, in the immediate future, we met with each department head. We reviewed each facility, and we asked each of them to present to us a request for what they wanted to do. They were made out, and you could tell by looking at them as they came in, they had never done this before. There were requests that were actually budget items as opposed to being really capital improvement items. We were told that the town administrator in the past just said, tell me what you want, and then I'll take care of the rest. So that's how it happened. We sat down with each. We took out things that really were not capital improvements. They were really town items, budget items, which will be in the town budget. They were things that, as Leo said, were way out, and there's a question of whether some of their requests were for things that they asked for something to be put in now, and then wanting to put a whole new building in later. We said, well, there's no sense putting in this now if you're going to get a whole new building later. There was a request for the gymnasium over at the rec center, and we said, well, if you're going to build a new school, then maybe not need a rec center, a gymnasium. So we can look at things like that. So those are the kind of things that we took out of the budget. And on the whole, we gave everybody some of what they wanted.
Do you guys have minutes from those meetings?
I will give you a copy of the town budget, of the capital improvement program. I'll have copies made, and we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Actually, that's a great idea. A short summary, and if it could be in the fashion of the school board summary, where they said, this is the original CIP request.
It's just helpful.
These are their.
I'll give you a copy of what we approved. How's that?
No. What I would like, and I can communicate with the finance department of the town, that we would like a copy of the work that was done, that the original request was X amount of dollars. These are the reductions, and just so that we understand the process.
Okay.
And so I do thank you, Rick, and Leo very much for your astute observations and to help to manage our costs. And I'll make that request of the finance.
Please do.
that
Diane
we have.
Hardy will be one you can make it to also.
Oh, that's right, because that's the individual who drives that process. And thank you again. Now, had we had a chance to talk about the school district's capital improvement program?
No, not yet.
I think you should all have a copy for informational purposes for you. So we gave you all a copy just as an FYI. If you do have any questions, I guess Sue is happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Sure.
My first question is on the very first page under programs. We have a curriculum coordinator in there for 05, 06. That's old. I see what you I'm
Can I
sorry,
just-
a facilities and ground supervisor you have coming up in '09 and 2010. That's not a,
Right.
why would it be a capital improvement?
It's not. And if you notice in the verbiage that you have in the beginning of your packet, because the school doesn't have a lot of capital, I mean, we have buildings, and that's about it. We don't have fire trucks, we don't have
Right,
police
right,
cars.
right.
But I think as a board and myself, I felt it was important that somewhere in our paperwork, we keep track of the kind of things that are coming down the road for us. And we've incorporated in our plan other items, including textbooks, which, when you think about a textbook that may cost $100, that's not considered capital. But collectively, if we buy a whole program, it is. So on the top, you'll see programs, if you want me to walk you through that.
Well-
We've separated out programs, buildings, and then technology. So those are big
this-
items.
These dollar amounts are not included in your CIP, or they are?
Our CIP is really just buildings for the most part, and building improvements. And when you talk about a CIP being part of our budget, our whole plan is what you have in front of you. And it may be, and if you read, as I said, on that second page where it talks about how we plan for it, it may be incorporated in our budget. Most of the time, if it's a large capital item, it's a warrant article, which you saw several years ago when we fixed the roof. Those are really capital projects, but we feel it's important to keep track of other things like programs and positions, because those are the things that are going to really impact our budget down the road. So that's why our plan is a little different than what you may have as a town capital improvements plan. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Thank you. This is,
In programs, there's no salaries in that section?
There may be, if there's one that we feel we need to add. And I actually have given you history on that, too. As you can see, when we added the curriculum coordinator, that was part of that document that you have.
I guess normally capital does not include salaries.
And you're correct, and that's what I indicated when I just spoke to you before. That is not really, but the way we plan for the future is we incorporate that in what you would consider a capital plan. So for lack of a better place to put it, that's where we've included it. We could have 2 plans, 3 plans. We could have a program plan, we could have a textbook plan, we could have a capital plan, but we've just felt that we'd put it all in one place, so that when you're looking at things coming down the road for the school district, it's all sort of in one place, which is technically called the capital improvements plan.
The one side effect, basically, when, on budgeting, when you put part of your capital improvement program, that becomes fixed once it's get approved. And if the school, for instance, didn't get their budget or whatever, and the school board has to start reducing whatever, the capital improvement portion that has been approved cannot be touched.
Well, I guess my question to you, Leo, is what do you mean by approved? Approved by
At the-
who? The governing body has to approve that, don't they?
At
When you
the town meeting. When the town meeting, if you have $250,000 in capital improvement programs been approved by the town meeting, that is fixed. You can, if you read the statute, you'll find, in fact, read your default budget. You will see in there's several items, fixed items that cannot be changed as a result of default budget. They have to be spent the way the meeting, and other items in the budget, there's, I think, 4 or 5 items. One is that cannot be touched. Capital improvement program is one of them.
In my interpretation of that is a bond. That would be a capital improvement plan. We don't have, I don't know what statute you're referring to, but as far as capital projects, and when you read, I actually have a default budget form with me and talks about those particular items.
Yeah.
It talks about bonding, it talks about contracts, but it does not specifically say capital improvement items. So I guess that's an interpretation that I'm not aware of, that we don't
think-
have a process that we go through, do we, that we present our capital improvements plan and get approval from the town or from any governing body. It's part of our budget.
but the one thing that I see here, and I'd like to thank the school board and the administrative staff, is that, and especially when 76% of the cost of the program
Right.
are in labor, that labor really, even in accounting, you may not consider it a capital. But as Gary has mentioned, when you add a person, you're adding a significant responsibility to the budget, not only for the wage, but also for the benefit and for the health care, retirement benefit and health care. So I think this is a good, strong presentation that says, in your community, to have the best education, we need to spend money not only on buildings, but also on programs and technology. Because in my world, if you're educating children today, they need to have the technological tools to learn, to be able to use their knowledge and communicate with each other. And so I really think maybe we'll be able to work to a different title so that this word capital doesn't cause confusion. Because, Leo, I come from the old world where in manufacturing, when you had a capital budget, it was a capital budget, and you did just the things that you did in the town side. But this world is a different world. This is a world of education where labor is 76 or more percentage of your costs. So I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you very, very much, because to look to see these numbers out in these future years really will help with planning. And now, yes, Rick.
I am reading the definition of capital improvements. It says here, a capital improvement in the Newmarket School District is defined as any expenditure for building improvements, equipment, renovation, or replacement in which the cost exceeds $10,000. And I have no problem with that. The next line, though, is a catch-all. The CIP plan may also include items that do not exceed $10,000 to assure for the long-range planning and programs. Because in looking at the program, I see an awful lot of items that are under $10,000, and I guess they fall under that catch-all.
And yes, and I was going to suggest that this is nice to have this information. I know that I'm going to need to take it home and read it and look at it a little bit, because it's all brand new to me. And Leo, I thank you for your observations, and Rick, I thank you for your observations. If I had any question at all, it is, how do I relate the column that's about our work, which is the 2007 and 8?
Actually, it would be 0809.
0809.
And you will see in there, I think there have been some revisions since we submitted that plan. I actually did give a copy of that to Diane Hardy, because she asked for that.
Okay.
But I don't think that the elevator is reflected in there that we talked about on Thursday, and the other warrant that you have. So it needs to be revised.
Okay, so this is subject to revision, and the column we're looking for is 2008, 2009, and we should wait for the revised copy that,
Sure.
and then we'll have something current to look at. And if any of us can think of a new word that takes the place of the word capital in these areas, where it's not a capital acquisition by accounting terms.
Right.
I think it would help everybody. But I think that's a credible presentation. Are there other questions at this point in time on that?
Do you know of any duplicates between what you've got here? For instance, junior, senior high school capital improvements. You have a reading program, math program, et cetera. Aren't they also in the budget, if I remember
Yes.
correctly?
If you read the front sheet, they may be incorporated in the budget, in some of those programs.
Well, are they duplicates or?
No. It's, if they're in the capital improvements plan, or that plan, whatever you want to call it, that you have before you, they've either been incorporated in the budget, they're a warrant article, or they're going to be used, or an expendable trust fund is going to be used. So there's nothing new that you haven't already seen, other than the warrant articles that's being presented.
It might be helpful in the summary of the 2008, 2009 column, if we were just to identify
Sure.
where we find those.
Yep,
Like
I
we
could do
find
that.
these in the budget, we
Yep.
find these here, we find these in the warrant article.
And I
then
can
it
do
helps
that.
us to understand.
I can do that.
But it's
I
really
got a
nice.
I've got a question. Why is it in two places? I'm sorry, I'm confused about that.
It's just isolated.
This is really kind of, this is just the background or the individual items. They are either part of the budget or a warrant article. This is where we list this is our list of programs, technology improvements. Here's our list that we're going to be paying for either within the budget or within a warrant article or by using our expendable trust funds.
What this shows me, excuse me for interrupting, is what this shows me is this organization is looking at expenses all the way out to the year 14. And so what you're doing is you're saying, okay, I know I'm spending at a certain level today. And so back in 2004, 2005, somebody sat down and said, okay, I'm going to need to spend a little more money, and it's because I want to do these things. And then each year, there'll be something new and a little more money spent. The budget the base budget may go up or down, depending on the efficiencies you'll be able to do. But these are the new initiatives.
Yeah, and I think, Rick, maybe, there is no line item in the budget that says capital improvement program. There's no line item in there that says that represents these. They're represented either as a warrant article or,
You have
So-
nothing in there that says reading program or math program?
You do.
yes, we do. Yes, you mean in the budget?
Yes.
Yes. That is how we pay for it. Just because it's on this piece of paper here, on this spreadsheet, I'm not sure,
Neither am I.
I'm not sure what your confusion is, I guess.
Well, I guess seeing him in both places confuses me.
Okay, so you see them in both places. That doesn't mean they're getting paid for 2 times. What I'm saying is, the line item in the budget for reading program that's written right here is called reading program in the budget.
Okay?
That's where it's,
Okay.
I guess the question, we're sort of bouncing between the town and the school. In the town program, there's a line item, capital improvement program.
and
we
we
don't
don't,
have
and we
that.
don't have that,
1,000.
right.
You don't have.
We
We
don't
don't
have
have
that.
that.
That's more of a
Okay.
planning tool for the school board. That document you have is more of
Well,
a
why don't you
planning
call
tool.
it a planning
And I can
tool
do that.
instead
I'd be
of a-
happy to do
instead
that.
of a-
I'd be happy to do
It looks
that.
like you're
I'd be happy to rename it and call it that. That would be fine.
charging. Let me ask a different kind of questions. There are, I have to find it here. There are line items in here that are called, just bear with me for just a second. Trust fund expenses or something like that. I'm trying to find the exact wording. That we're not budgeted for, but there's a whole bunch of charges. I thought that's what you were using to pay out of what I thought was a capital improvement program. Let me just find out. There's one in every section, and I just, obviously, because I'm being pressured.
Oh, that's okay. We can come back to it.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and talk, and I'll
We
find
can
it.
come back to it, and take your time. There's no reason to, it's important that we all have enough
I got one.
time to.
Tech trust fund expense,
Yeah.
10-11-1-498. And there's nothing budgeted, and then there's a charge, at least for the first 6 months of this year, of $7,395. So it's appearing, I mean, obviously, it's, although it says this year's budget, it is truly talking about the budget you're existing under this year.
Right. What,
So,
what the board did last year when they were going through the budgeting process is they pulled a number of items out of the budget and authorized them to be expended out of what we call an expendable trust fund. So in order to track those items and know where they are and where they've been expended, I've created an account in the budget so that you can see exactly what was spent. Now, officially, the board will take action on that sometime during the course of this year and authorize us to remove the money from those trust funds. And I gave Linda a spreadsheet right there, just to show you what those balances are, what we've added to them, and what was authorized this year to be taken out of them. So in response to your question about there is no budget, I guess technically there is, but I didn't feel it was right for me to put that number in there because that number is a little flexible based on what we actually expend. We'll only withdraw what we expend from those trust funds.
Now,
that make sense?
This is in addition to the report that you referred to as a CIP report, or?
No, in that CIP report, I mentioned in there that the funding for those programs could be in a number of ways. It could be the regular budget, it could be a warrant article and a bonding, or it could be one of those trust funds, and that's at the discretion of the board. There's a number of ways to fund those programs that we have presented to you. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay.
What? I guess my other question is why, the only question is why didn't we have this at the beginning?
Which document?
The one you just handed out.
The trust funds?
Yeah. I mean, because I haven't seen that before.
I believe it's in the back in your appendix. It might not be that.
Well, I think the important thing is that we have it now, because now's the time we're talking about it. Because I think what we're talking about right now, and it came up as a discussion with this, long-range spending plan, is what we're really talking about is what funds the budget. We're really talking about revenue sources. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about how we spend money today, how we're planning to spend money tomorrow, and where the revenue sources are. And so I thank you for the summary, and I thank you very much. And for the people at home who are learning along with us, there are different sources of revenue that are used to educate children. And tracking the information is, as Rick points out eloquently, that it is a task that is difficult in these days. It's fund accounting. And fund accounting is a little different than private accounting. And I think members of the Budget Committee and members of the community will learn more about that as we move forward, as we all become educated in what fund accounting is and where the dollars come from to buy the services that help us to live in the comfort that we live in. Yes, you had your hand up.
I forgot.
That's
Because I was
good.
listening to you.
I wanted to point out too that in this front section of your binders, there is a page that says status of the 2008 approved warrant articles. That, you know, when these binders were first created, it does have the balance figures for each account. And, you know, today we got the most up-to-date numbers. So, you know, although I know that, you know, Rick has expressed that he'd prefer to get things, you know, to have things before a meeting. You know, I mean, this is a living, breathing budget. So, you know, we're just trying to give you the most up-to-date, so.
I remember.
Yes.
Sue, just a question on the reserve funds on the sheet you just handed us. The special education fund, just because that's a broad term, I mean, in perspective to where you have repairs and maintenance and technology, what exactly would that trust fund get used for? Would that be for additional teaching?
No.
Teachers'
That would
salaries?
just be for unexpected costs that arise during
Like
the
a
course of the year. For
Equipment or?
perhaps, but for the most part, if we had a student move in that was placed in an out-of-district placement that was very expensive and we couldn't absorb that in our budget, we would go to our trust fund.
Okay,
Because you know, some of those placements can go up to 200,000.
right, okay.
And by law, we would be mandated to pay for that, and we may
Right.
not have that money in
So
our
it's a
budget.
savings account in preparation of that.
In preparation for that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And
Yeah.
Leo, I think you spoke to that at our last meeting a little bit on the wisdom in creating that umbrella, because if a student comes in, see if I understand this correctly. Let's say that somebody moves into our community, just as they did not wish to have these issues with their children. They're great needs. And then when they come to school, they're very expensive needs. And if we don't have a pool of money set aside, you have to educate the child. You want to educate the child. But the only place to get the money is the money being spent on the people that are the children currently in the district.
That's what we budget for.
Because you have a savings account for those emergencies when a new person moves in, then you're not negatively impacting the
Right.
children that are in the district. The children in the district continue to get the high-quality care, and the child who has this issue that they didn't ask for, they get high-quality care because we've planned for it and set the money aside for the emergency. So I think that's, I was impressed with the wisdom when that started.
And in regards to those, we talked about caps, and the board did set caps on those at the last board meeting, I believe.
Okay. Is there other conversation around, I guess this area has really been long-term budget planning.
I guess I have a question on the sheet here, as I'm looking at it. The top line, your balance, when you see balance, the last one, balance 63008,
Possible, and I probably should have put possible, because,
okay, but that's
no
without
interest in
putting any expenditures that might occur.
right, and that's without any interest that might accrue too, so,
Okay, so that's a potential
potential balance.
balance on 63008.
Correct. And I can change that.
63007, that is the balance that was in these accounts as of the close of your budget year?
It was correct.
Okay, and these approved expenditures, are those expenditures since 63007?
Yes, those are the ones that you see listed below,
Okay, and so they are in
in process now.
expenditures in this current budget year to date so far, and may be more of them.
Not really, not unless the board approves more,
That's
but I don't
what
think
mean.
that's their
They
intent.
have up until 6/30/08 to withdraw money from
Correct.
these funds if they so wish.
Right, only in those that are considered expendable,
Right.
expendable trust funds,
Right.
correct. That's their
Okay.
authority,
So that's estimated 6/30/08 balance, not.
that's true.
Okay.
Okay, so the 63007 is an audited balance and forecasted balance for 63008. Approved expenditures, that's board-approved expenditures to date.
Correct, and I think I put a note there, pending final expenditures and their authority. And what I'll do when we finish that up, I'll bring that to the board, and they'll approve the withdrawal of the actual funds we need.
And these additions were as a result of last year's
Fund balance.
fund balance.
And that's pending the final audit figures that we receive from the
Okay,
auditors.
Okay, so, and that's very helpful.
So I guess basically the board, the budget committee, when we approve a budget for a given year, say a $10 million budget, the school board can spend that $10 million plus, in addition to that $10 million, they can withdraw money out of, that they are agents of, they authorize to spend. So this is not part of their quote $10 million, whatever budget that was approved. They can spend what are on these funds in addition to the approved budget.
And yes, I think that's a very good observation. I know in our work, we have something called reserve funds. We reserve for obsolete material. We reserve for vacation. And we reserve for accounting and legal fees. We reserve for unpaid bills. And then we have to manage every month looking at what's going on to see if we need to set more money aside. Because our mandates, they're different than in the public sector. The public sector, I think we really work hard at trying to stabilize the tax rate and provide the very best of services. I think I'm right in that.
And I just wanted to say that what Leo says is correct, but I want to remind you that we've been, I mean, even through this budget process, we've been very clear with you our intentions with these accounts. So so I want to make sure that it's understood that although we do have access to some of these funds, we're being very open with the budget committee about what our intentions are with those funds. So.
And these funds are funded through warrant articles as well.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And not only open with the budget committee, but open with the community.
Exactly.
In that all our meetings are televised so that everybody can see the meetings themselves, and of course, they're always able to ask questions.
Exactly. In the community, every year when they vote on these warrants, are able to give us their vote of confidence that they have given us this ability to do so with those accounts.
I've lost track of where we are in the meeting. Is this
We skipped a review of school budget because we were waiting for you. That's why
Okay,
when Rick
okay.
gave his spiel on the town side of the capital improvement.
I thought we were at the adjourn section.
well?
We
Well,
were almost.
And I was wondering, and I take a reading from everybody here, is there a desire or a need to get up and stretch legs, or do we want to move right into the, going over the school, a quick review of the school budget at this time?
Move right into it.
Okay.
I vote.
Is that, and again, I think there's coffee in Ed's office and water.
Can you get in there?
Yes, you can. The doors are open, and if you want,
Does
help
anybody else
yourself.
want coffee? Yeah. Would you bring my phone? Too? Black. Thank you. Hi,
So-
anybody else?
How are you gonna carry them?
I used to be a waitress.
Now, I understand that the school budget books are available at the administration office. Sue, do you have them in your area? Okay. Thank you. One thing that came up, it came to my attention that maybe a revenue page might be missing in some of your budget books. If it is, there's more copies up. If when you're looking through a big document like this, if you happen to see your page numbering sequence, if it appears as a page missing, please just feel free to go to the administrative office and pick up the page that's missing. That often happens in how does the budget committee wish to proceed? I know, Rick, you had some learning that, and I don't want to, this is in the spirit of good work that you've done, and that people that are at home may want to know what the answers are as well to the questions that you've been able to ask and get answered. I'm thinking it would be good if we could start with maybe those questions that you had.
I met with Kathy and Sue the other day, and I had a question and I'm just trying to, I'm wrong page, that's why I can't see it. To take it as an example, I asked, let's go back. At the meeting with Tom Mahan, he said one of the things that we should see is up-to-date information regarding the activities of the budgets and for both the town and for the school. I requested that information. I'm not sure everybody has it, but if not, I know that Sue will have them available, or Kathy will have them available for you.
I thought they were handed out at,
No.
Get emailed and
They were emailed.
yeah.
They
I
were
think
They were emailed, but there was,
I guess the only one that would not have gotten it would have been you, Lois, because
I got a copy and had it run off.
you, okay,
You
so.
have-
there were 22 pages, and
Right,
and that's
right.
why.
Had it
Right.
run off.
Good.
This document, just to go over it for a second, shows you the current year budget. Now, the current year budget is actually the budget you're under right now. And if I say anything wrong, you can correct me afterwards, okay? The next thing is the expenditures. On the top right-hand part of the document, it says period July 2007 to December 2007. But as it was pointed out to me, that really means to December 17th, because that's when the document was printed. When I first looked at it, I thought that they had given us the numbers through year end because it was getting so close to December 25th that there wasn't going to be much activity after that. But so we'll all know it's from July 1st to December 17th. It tells you what the current year expenditure is, how much money was spent so far this year, and then there's a category called encumbrances. And I found out that encumbrances means it's the contracted amount that they're anticipating to pay. That plus what has already been spent equals what the total contracted amount would be. In the case of the professional salaries for 10, 11, 1, 112, there was a difference of $38,245. And that was explained to me was that a couple of teachers left, and that's the savings for this year on the salaries amount. So that money would go into either into their, whatever the capital improvement, or it gets given back to the town. Then they start from ground zero and compute what the salaries would be based on the people they hired to replace the two that was lost. And that is represented by the $1,426,022 minus $1,000. So it's $1,425,022 that we see for the recommendation for this year. My initial concern was that they were taking this $38,000 and it wasn't being computed as part of this year's budget. I thought the budget for this year should be down $38,000. The increase from last year to this year is $30,000, so I thought it should have been $60,000, or at least that the $30,000 should be accounted for. But they explained to me very nicely that, no, that's not true. The $38,000 went to the bottom line for this year, will be either added into trust account or will be, or CIP, whatever you want to call it, or will be given back to the voters. So that's the explanation of the actual numbers that I received. And did I explain it all right? Even though you know I didn't agree with what you told me, it is, I accept what you're telling me.
And I
Rick,
just,
think
Look it
the
over.
budget is an authorization to expend.
Right.
It is not, it's just that, when you say a budget, you don't change the budget during the year. When the voters approve a budget at the deliberative, at the town meeting section, that is how much they can spend. That number
Correct.
stays fixed throughout the year, no matter what happens. That's just an authorization to expend, and it stays the same throughout the year.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. And
I guess I thought that you
No,
were
no,
saying
no.
something 30,000 should have been taken out of the
No, no,
budget.
no, no, no,
somehow.
no, no, no,
Okay.
no, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that at the end of 2008, or June
right.
30th of 2008, unless they spend it on something out, there will be an overage in the professional
Fund
salary
balance.
account of $38,000. They've hired 2 new people, 08, 09, and they went to, they tell me to go to zero-based budgeting. That 38,000, I'm not sure what's going to happen in June 30th. There may be something else they can spend it on, or it goes to reduce taxes for next year, or it's spent some way, I'm not sure. And I don't think they know either right now.
We haven't made a determination on
Yeah.
that yet. It's too soon.
Would you like coffee?
No, thank you, sir.
The other point to that is that, for instance, if someone leaves mid-year, I recognize that there's right now, we're $38,000 ahead of the game in professional salaries. But understood that we could have a teacher leave tomorrow, and that salary of the person that we hire may be more than the person that we're paying right now. So we have to consider that we do need a little bit of flexibility should we have a turnover of staff mid-year. And I realize that looks like a pool of money right now, but that will change should we have a turnover on June 30th.
I think, Linda, you talked about that earlier, about budgets are a living document. And that, at what time do you think you'll have a first pass that you'll end up at a certain, at what time do you have a
Question?
good idea of how the budget's gonna end, on where you're gonna be, if there's gonna be any?
Every month that we review it.
But I know, and so it's a moving target.
Exactly.
Months 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is it actually the last month, or is it the month after the close of the budget year that you know, or do you
Well,
need?
actually, it's after the final audit, we get the final figures.
Okay.
Because, as you know, even though we close the books June 30th, there are a number of invoices that come in throughout the month of July. We pay them up and then move forward, so.
You gotta.
That, right, that all gets incorporated,
Okay.
but we have a good idea right now. I presented that to the board in December about where we might be. But keep in mind, we do have changes in a lot of our accounts as far as our students, especially when we talk about our special ed population. Placements and things like that affect that balance, because they could be substantial if we place a student out of district, and we do have the money within the budget, don't have to go to the trust fund, we will use those funds first. So that is something that can change significantly between now and the end of June.
So the December is a mid-year.
It's a mid-year.
It's a mid-year, best guess. We have a
Yes.
vice president engineer.
I hate
He
to
calls
say
it a
guess, but-
swag. He calls it a swag.
Yeah.
Mid-year isn't, the end of December is not
Not
half
really
of your
mid-year.
school year.
No, that's true,
because-
too. That's a good point, Leo, because our teachers start getting paid in September, and if you think about December as being mid-year, that is not correct. So if you're looking at, and I wanted to talk a little about that document that you received. If you're looking at that document and you're looking at December, you can't see 50% in a lot of those accounts because we're not 50% through our year. So that, if you're trying to do the math and look at it from that perspective, you won't see that.
Is there a better period to pick that represents 50%?
Not really, because as you indicated, salaries are probably 76% of our budget and benefits, and our teachers have the option of being paid in a number of ways. They could get a lump sum, they could get a 21 pay, or they could get a summer pay. So it's going to skew those numbers as far as being 50% at any point in time.
Okay.
In the meantime, though, we will continue to send these reports, these updates on a monthly basis to the budget chairperson, who can then disperse them to everyone, so that you can see on a monthly basis where we are.
And where they go electronically, but I'll need to print one and
Sure.
then drop it off in your door.
Okay.
Okay.
And like, as Rick indicated, I will make sure that it's run at the end of the month, after all of the expenditures for that month. Like, we may have a payroll on the 31st, so I'll wait until that period of time and print it for you, so you do have an accurate reflection of the entire month.
And I know Kathleen had her hand up for a second.
Just a point that
even though salaries in December don't reflect 50%, supply accounts, the tools of our teachers' trade is all purchased in September. So many of those line items are going to represent 85, 90% already expended by September, because the teachers need to have the tools in their hands in order to begin their classes for the new year. So that 50% rule is just, I don't even think you should use it, because it's just not going to.
It's really about the rhythm of
Of a school.
School.
All of the purchasing for supplies, equipment, materials, desks, chairs, pencils, scissors, crayons, whatever, occurs during the month of, actually, the principals and the staff work in May, the end of May, to begin to put together their purchase orders, and they're payable after July 1. All of those materials are received by our building administrators by August 1st, because the teachers are very adamant about having those tools in their hands.
And back on, Sue, when you were mentioning that it's after the audit's complete, that you really have what I call hard numbers.
For the fund balance, correct.
Well, yes, yeah. So the audit begins about
Well,
which month, I guess?
well, technically, that's our call as to when we want the auditors to come in.
Sure,
They really recommend that we wait 2 months after the fiscal year, because everything
Okay.
that comes in beyond June has to be included in that
Okay.
audit. So actually, they were here, I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch our board meeting, they were here at our board meeting. They're finishing that up. They hope to have it done within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so we can look at maybe hard numbers in a couple of weeks. Or 2 to 4 weeks. Yes, sir.
I think you've got to understand that the issue is not whether they're 6-month numbers, 3 months numbers, 9 months numbers. The important thing is that they are numbers of actual expenditures. And the advantage is, as we look at them, we can, after a year or 2 years or 3 years, know exactly what we're looking at. We can justify or juxtapose what the potential effect of those numbers are on the budget as we go along. Using 2 years ago numbers, today, trying to figure out the budget for next year, or I shouldn't say, 0607, is it? 07, 08, 07, 08, 09.
I don't know, I'm always working with 3 years, so
Yeah.
what year?
You know, I mean, that tells me what happened 2 years ago. At
Correct.
the end of 2 years. I'm concerned about what's going on now. I'm looking for a train. I think that maybe if this report could be changed to give us a couple of years of numbers so we could look at them along with some actual numbers, it would help tremendously, at least for me, because then I could say, hey, I think, example, wellness activity. We've never spent more, you've budgeted $7,500, and the highest ever used was $1,734 between last year and this year. Instead of using $7,500, let's lower it to $5,000, or let's take $5,000 out of that number.
That's an item that's new, and that was an initiative that was incorporated with a change in healthcare where we saved $165,000. And a promise was made to the union that we would set aside that amount of money. So we really can't, we don't want to go beyond, against our word and not set that aside. The first year you have information on is the first year we implemented that program. So we were very cautious about how we expended that.
And it's nice to hear of such success in dashboards are the words that we use in our work at RIC, as far as, is there a good evaluation which is easily understood by all the disciplines, that helps us to understand that we're really using the resources in the most effective manner. And of course, going ahead and managing the detail, which we pay our trained professionals to do, is done well. And dashboards end up being this this presentation that helps us to understand the trends and where we're going and how we can really stabilize tax rates, increase quality of services. I'm all in favor of improving on this type of a presentation where we might have a PowerPoint presentation that goes up on the board that people can see with their eyes as well as listening. And they don't have a need, however the Budget Committee can help, so that they don't have a need to go into the details of what we pay our professionals to manage, but yet we'll be able to look and see that the successes, or depending on if it's spending more money and that's not a success and it's showing that you're spending more money, it needs to show that so that we're able to all work together to find a way to reverse that negative trend. So, yes.
And, you know, and like Rick, and I probably drive you guys crazy once in a while when I ask for these, I'm always asking, can I see the last 5 years, how this trended out? I do that with so many things all the time, and I think that you know, and it's something that since I've been on the board, this is my second time around, so I always ask for those over time on certain items, and what I can say is that having been on the board for, I think this is my fifth year around, I have been seeing those overtime numbers, but I think that, you know, Rick's point is valid, and maybe what we can do is try to for new, you know, especially for new budget committee members, and even, you know, for those who've been on, you know, maybe what we can do is give a trend, you know, instead of, you know, last year budget, last year actual, do, you know, final numbers for 3 years, then this year's or next year's request.
We can do it in any format you desire. I mean, that information is available, however you want me presented, I'm happy to do that.
And I'm not thinking about redoing or adding another layer of task, but rather if, Linda, you've been asking for trends in focused areas, because ultimately the school board is the responsible party. Then if you share that information, that trend information, a simple PowerPoint, it's a visual, we can throw it up on the screen with the computer. The people at home can look at it the same as we look at it, and then it's really clear that at least we'll know which direction the train's going. Yes.
Doesn't each teacher, or let's say the teacher, don't they have a budget when they start school? Each teacher, individuals, have their own budget for their classroom. Years back, they used to have that.
No.
Every teacher
To
had their
answer
own,
your
like
question, no.
$65,
No.
$80,
No.
$100.
Because decisions are made collectively. So, for instance, program-wise, when the teachers adopted everyday math program at the elementary school, that was a collective program, so that when the purchases and all the materials are made for that, it's made as a school request. There are team requests. A fourth grade team may have a special project, and so as a team, they'll request $100 for supplies in order to do that project to the principal, who reviews that. But each teacher doesn't have their own budget. No, it would
It
be
used to.
very, well,
It seemed like it
it
would
just
be
was, you
easier.
couldn't control it. It would have been 108 budgets. We have about 108 teachers plus all the other departments. It's unmanageable, so we have a collective budget that represents the needs of that particular school. So that, but each teacher has access to monies in the budget that they're given by the principal.
They're limited to each. I'm
Yes,
sure
there is.
They're all limited to the
Oh,
amount
sure,
they can spend.
sure. I mean, they
type
just
thing.
can't,
Yeah.
because how fair is it for one teacher to get $1,500 and another teacher who may be brand new, doesn't know the routine yet, only gets $250? So the principal is able to regulate that.
This thing that we received regarding the cutbacks, when we got this, we had done this prior. This was the original one, when you cut back, you took money away. So you gave us a new one. So I went into looking at it, and you know, the amounts were the same thing in the big book as they were here. So I was thinking, like you said, in the big book, 500, not thinking it's 500 here on the equipment repair. So I thought you had deducted. This is what I was
No,
thinking that you had done.
Right, the process is
We're brand new. We
right.
don't know, so we just assume this is what's taking place.
Right, the teachers and the faculty at each of the sites, and as well as at the SAU, present a budget to their administrator. The administrator then puts that budget together. That administrator then comes to Sue and I and presents their budget. At that time, we review the budget and we make cuts right then and there. I think you can see one here, software, $1,000. We reduce that line before it ever came to you, Mrs. Jablonski. That,
Yeah, okay.
you'll never see that because Sue and I cut another $62,000 before you saw it. But
So we
that's,
don't know anything, really.
but you know, the school board expects that the administrators are going, since we're the practitioners and we know what's going on in the buildings, that we make those decisions based on the input from the principals and the administrators as to what we should or shouldn't have or how far we can go. Otherwise, budgets could be extremely high.
I almost feel like a budget committee isn't even worthwhile because we don't even have actual facts. It's forever.
Well, I don't
look
understand
at
what you
one
mean
number,
by
we think
facts.
that's
I'm
it.
the administrator, Susan and I are part of our job description and our responsibility is to bring forward a budget to the school board that represents our needs. So when Sue did this,
And the budget, and the school board is responsible for bringing a budget to the budget committee. So the principals don't bring a budget to the budget committee, the school board does. So, you know, what we did do, you know, we try, you know, and maybe, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have asked that we put this sheet together.
That was your request.
This was my request, to
It's a
show
good-
you.
It's a good request. I think it's a good request, and I think it's a valuable
You don't know
comment
how many
that you're
times I
making.
went through this book. And every
and-
time I went, it was different.
And I understand what you're saying. You're saying that the process, and Leo has mentioned it too, is that the budget committee's process is not well understood, and we don't have an ability to hand it to the next person that comes along to the budget committee. And this sheet is invaluable. In my world, this sheet's invaluable. It says that in the planning, 13,270,000, we should have this up on the screen, 13,270,000 was what people started to talk about spending. And then it went down to $13,207,000. Now, I don't know where the paper is, but I know what the planning is. And already there's a $63,000 reduction. And then the school board looked, that was just at the superintendent's level. Then the school board reductions came in, and they took almost 150 or so off, and the school board took 150 off. And then it came to the budget committee, and I think the conversation, and I was not at the meeting, but my understanding is the conversation was the budget committee said, well, if you could get close to another 3% lower,
Yeah.
it would be.
No, if you could get down to 3%.
3%.
Okay, down to 3%. That it would be, it would be good work on all parties.
Well,
And,
that's
and
why
the school board reductions are certainly a collaboration of the work that we did, you know, in our budget sessions with the budget committee. I mean, ultimately, it's the school board's responsibility to make those reductions during our process, but it was certainly a collaboration with the budget committee. So,
those cuts had already been made
So-
when we said the 3%. So when
No,
we got
no,
this, we
no.
just assumed that
that
this
is not
was.
correct.
No.
That is not correct.
See, we did not know that.
Well, you did know that because you had you had the numbers, you had the original budget,
I did-
which was at the 3,207.
We didn't know how to read that. I didn't.
Well, we've, you know, we've made it very,
I try to do this on my own.
okay.
Understand.
And I understand that, but the thing, I think, to really, and I've been trying to figure this out myself, you're not doing it on your own. You're doing it for all the residents in town. They've asked you to do
Yeah,
it.
but I want to understand that.
So that, to do it on all your own, you do it with the help of Sue, or with the help of the school board, or with the help of other budget committee. And if you get to a point where you're really worrying yourself, you shouldn't. You call and ask for help, and talk about it. Because if you have the question, there are many more people that are residents, they have the same question. And so you're finding the answer for them. So it's good that you brought up the question then. I don't understand the process. I don't understand where $13 million goes, you know. I understand our kids get a good education, but I'd like to help manage this a little bit. So I think
I have to say that Sue and I are always available. We've met with a number of you over time to answer questions. I know that on occasion, people have called Don Parnell at the town office, and Don's really not the person, because we're the keepers of this budget, and we certainly know about the development. So if you ever have any questions, I can't say this enough, please don't hesitate to call us. We'll clear our calendars in order to answer your questions, because this is critical information, and some of you have done that, and I hope that it's been a positive result.
I mean, and I hope Rick doesn't mind. Rick sent me an email, a private one. He said, well, you're telling me I can't talk to anybody. And I'm going, no, I'm not telling you can't talk to anybody. All that I'm saying is, Rick, if you go and you ask questions to the people in the administrative offices, those are questions that other people in the community have. And it's important that they hear the answers to the questions, because then we're all on the same board, and then and I'll say it out loud, because I think right now the biggest obstacle that we have in our community is to restore trust. That our trust has been violated with the shenanigans of the process of forensic audit and name-calling and looking for evil among places. I've walked in the town hall and I've seen our town employees in tears, because we have to remember that there are 225 town employees and 225 or more school district employees and 50 town employees, and they're proud of their work, and they do their work honestly, and they come here every day and they do their very best. And the one thing that we don't want is to lose the sense of community, to lose the sense of collaboration, to lose the sense of trust.
I hope that you feel that you've never lost that with the school department.
Absolutely not.
Because there's never been a question relative to our audits. There's never been a question about getting information and sharing information. The school board has always been very open, and it's been a transparent process. So I know that there's an issue in the community that sort of is overshadowing us, but it doesn't relate, and this is for the people listening out there this morning, it does not relate to the school department.
Well, that's not what I implied at all either.
But
I didn't say
I
that you
don't think
implied that.
anybody's implying it. I don't think anybody's implying it. And thank you, Kathleen, because it's nice to get the elephant out of the closet. The school board, in the short years that I've been treasurer, has always answered every question that I've ever had, and every year has made a significant improvement in financial processes. And the other thing that they quietly did is they've been looking at everything that's been printed and just checking it against the way all the other communities in New Hampshire are looking at everything that happens here in Newmarket.
Of course, I
they're
think because
checking.
it struck me this way is because I used to work on budgets for the school
And
years back, but that was a long time ago, so, you know, I know we've changed.
Yeah.
I know, but I didn't know to the extreme that we've gone.
it, and
So I
it,
found it hard to,
And I found it hard in my last employment switch. And I went in yesterday to the gentleman that I work with, and I said, here's a $10,000 problem, and I can't find the answer, and I want to reserve it against expenses. And he said, no, we don't know the answer yet, let's just keep figuring it out. And he moved on. That wasn't how I was taught accounting a long time ago.
I know.
It wasn't material. On a $1.3 million budget, the $10,000 wasn't material. Everything else was tied together very nicely. And I know I digressed, but I wanted to just take that moment. Yes, Rick?
Couple of things. One is that I think that, at least I feel, I won't say we feel, I feel my job as a member of the Budget Committee is to try to combine the needs of the school department along with the needs of the taxpayer, and try to bring them into some sort of a medium. I want to make sure that the taxpayer gets the best bang for his buck, or her buck. That's what I feel my job is. And you know, I was privileged to work with, I was chairman of the CIP committee for the town, and I was privileged to work with Leo and some other people, and Peter Roy and John Badger. And we were allowed to make decisions in regards to the budget. We were allowed to put forth our recommendations. And it can go to the town, and the town can change it. Our recommendations here can go to the school budget, school board, and they can change it. But at least we can make recommendations. I think we should be able to make recommendations of what we think is changes to the budget. I don't think it needs a whole lot of discussion. If we see something and we as a budget committee vote to agree that yes, that's something we should offer to the school budget, a school board, then I think that's the way it should work. Every time we talk about something, it seems it has to be a discussion, and the school board steps in and says, well, this is what we think. You know, and it's not that I don't care what they think. I think that we've heard, I went to all of the meetings and listened to everything they had to say, and so did many of the people on the committee. And we were presented information. Now, the item I raised this morning, oh, that's part of the contract. Did it say that any place in this document that we're giving? And I say, no, it wasn't. I didn't see that. If it was, I wouldn't even mention it this morning. So I think, you know, the way the document is laid out, there's two sections, there's a back section, there's a front section. It's the most cumbersome document I've ever worked with in my life. And it's a frustrating thing, and I am terribly, terribly frustrated with it. And I'm sorry, but that's how I feel, and I did want to make that comment. The school board, Kathy and Sue, have done an admirable job. They've answered every question, and I have taken up what you said. I have gone to them and asked the questions, and they've been very, very responsive. We have not agreed all the time, but I don't have to agree with them, and they don't have to agree with me. That's called a democratic process. So that's what I want to be able to do as a committee.
And at the end of the day, you know, our Saturday meeting several Saturdays ago, you know, as the school board representative to the budget committee, you know, it was important to me to take away from that meeting, you know, what does the budget committee want to see from this budget? And I was told we would like you to keep the increase to 3% or less. So we went to work to do that. That was the specific recommendation that we received from this budget committee.
And thank you, because I was going back to that, Is this document that profiles or describes or outlines that accomplishment, is this document something that some further explanation would be helpful?
I would have just liked to have known that the top part had already been cut.
Okay,
It wasn't something that was just
okay.
done after that comment,
So-
after the 3% was.
Okay, so your point was that I thought the 3% was coming off of this number, and actually the 3% came off a number that
Had
was,
already been done, it was just
Okay.
information.
Yeah, it
Okay.
wasn't, yeah, but you didn't ask for a 3% reduction. You asked to us to keep our increase to 3% or less. Because you've said this a
point,
couple of
good
times, and
point.
I don't want,
good point.
there was never an expectation that we were gonna reduce the budget by 3%.
Okay, yeah, and I misunderstood that. Thank you for that correction. So so it didn't matter where the numbers started.
You?
No.
So Lorraine, it didn't matter where the numbers started, because the goal was that the increase be no greater than 3%. Okay, and I missed that entirely. Thank you. So this is this is okay now?
Yeah.
And so, thank you, and I think it's a good document. There's a risk anytime you start collaborating together.
What tuned me in is what was going on is when I got to the football, because that had already been paid off, that's already done.
Mm-hmm.
So, I said to myself, geez, how can you cut something when it's already been,
Okay,
that's where I got the
okay.
right idea that I was all full of baloney.
So you figured it out with it, yeah. So the old skills came right back.
I wasn't smart enough to get it before. It's just like the position for the music teacher. If you look at the teachers, they're half, so I'm assuming there's two of them at half salary. So does that mean that the other half goes to the high school or band and I don't know how that works.
Exactly how it works, half at the elementary and half at the
High school. So why would you cut the $18,000 one out and you
Because
keep the
we
other?
had, additionally, we had a full-time position, and, we have not request for it, so we reduced another position by half.
And the music?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so important
I
to.
totally agree with you. That wasn't an easy thing to do, but we did cut a position by half.
I think it's really too bad when any part of the children's curriculum is reduced and textbooks are reduced. These are the sections to
Yeah.
me that are really, really important.
We totally agree, but remember, for our initial discussions, Mrs. Kent, it was a zero-based budget. So when we look at textbooks and materials, last year, we proposed and passed a proposal for a language arts, K through 5. Very expensive, because it's multiple. It's spelling, it's handwriting, it's reading books, it's their language, and it's their practice books. So when we put that curriculum forward, it was very expensive. This year, we're proposing some science and social studies materials, not as expensive. You don't need as many supportive materials, so it's going to be less. So when you saw that reduction in that, it's because if you looked at the plan that Sue gave you, you'll see that there's different years for different curriculums. They're not as expensive. The position around the teachers, because our budget is so labor intensive, 76% of our budget, as you know, is all about labor, we actually look at our enrollment numbers. We give you all these numbers. Well, we saw that our students are choosing in music some courses and not choosing others, and they're taking other kinds of courses. So I can't have a teacher that doesn't have any students in their class. Why would I pay for that? I mean, I could not. It would not be right to the community to have a teacher who has one student or two students in their class. So we looked at every position, and determined whether we needed that. We looked at class sizes and enrollment, especially at the high school, because it does flex at the high school, particularly at the high school. I know we didn't like it either. I would have loved to have kept those positions in.
Do you think maybe we should have a teacher's cap?
Teacher's cap, what do you mean by
Put a
that?
cap on the salaries?
Well, if we do that, and I understand what you're saying, but we would not be competitive. Our teachers would leave and go to other school districts.
That's the
that
price
pla-
we have to pay. I mean, we can't,
But you have to understand that they're just like everyone else. They're earners. This is the world of work. And if you choose to put a cap on salaries, then you're making a decision that you can't compete with the communities around you, and your staff will leave.
well,
And my question.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, my question has always been about the economic life of a community and how integral is a school system and how integral is the police department and how integral are the town services. We all live in this community, many of us own property.
I know where you're going, but that's not what I was thinking when I said that.
So you're,
because
But
so a
Mrs.
person hits a certain salary level, and then for the next
have a lot
10
of
years, they
benefits.
should never get another raise?
No,
Well,
that's
that,
not what I said.
okay.
Put a cap on until we finally get some sort of, what do I want to say? Some headway,
Some money from
some
other
money,
sources.
something to get us over what's going on.
So if it
Over
only
the
takes
hump?
us 3 years, a person should wait 3 years before they get a raise? If it takes us 3 years to get over the hump?
What about cutting back on some of the insurance then in the dental?
And you know we've done that. You know that
I know.
that we've done that. That
How
we've
about the
saved
dental?
100 some odd thousand. And anyone new to the district, any new employee to the district now is paying more, a higher percentage now. All new employees are paying a higher percentage of their insurance. So the school board is definitely working on that.
I don't feel proud when we say we pay 76% out of our budget for salaries. Seems like.
That's just the reality
I
of it.
know it is. That's what I'm saying. Why
is
can't
it-
we try to?
Is it a spending problem or is it a revenue problem? I mean, is it, and what are our priorities as a culture?
Well, you know,
Can
don't
I?
you have to make trade-offs?
Two
for a
thoughts.
while?
One is that the cap will affect your greatest asset. The greatest asset in this community is your experienced teachers.
But they're all
They,
leaving now,
they,
so
they,
we're all set.
well, excuse me?
I said a lot of them are leaving. They're of that age of retiring, so.
Well, we only have 2 this year, so they're not leaving in droves yet, but your greatest asset is your experienced teachers, and, you need to think about that. The second thing is I urge you to let the local legislators in the area know. They're working right now on adequacy. They're trying to define what an adequate education is, and right now their job is figuring out how much that costs. And one of the most difficult things in Newmarket has been, as the value of your community has increased, you've lost money. Since I've been in Newmarket in 5 years, we've lost nearly $1,400,000 in state funding because of loss of adequacy, and the reason for that is the wealth of your community. I know you don't all believe that. I know that people have a hard time with that concept, but the value of this community has grown tremendously because you're in the seacoast, and as a result, the state aid has been reduced by $1.2 million. If you looked at that reduction in terms of us in our revenues, our budget has not increased hardly at all because of that. We've been around 2.5% over the last 5 years. And it's a frustrating thing for this community, but I urge you all, get on the telephones and call your legislators and ask them to be very, very watchful of that new legislation that's coming through around funding education.
I'm going to ask you a silly question, but we have two legislatures here in town.
We have three.
Three? Why can't we get one of those to go for education? We have one that goes for the environment, and the other goes for...
Right, but you know, we're very fortunate because right next door in Durham are two legislators that are very,
I know
very
that,
active.
But I thought
and-
they only dealt with Durham.
Well,
I know
no,
one
but you
very
know
well.
what? I've never hesitated to call them.
You never did?
I've never hesitated. I pick up the phone. I've talked to them about the definition of what adequacy looks like, and I've talked to them at meetings, and they're very open. And actually, they've been to Newmarket. They've been to our high school. They've visited. They've done presentations. So I would not hesitate to call your local reps, including Senator Hassan out of Exeter, because she's very aware of the issues in Newmarket.
Lorraine, would we, if they would come to a budget committee meeting and help us to understand how to encourage us all to use our voices, would that be a beneficial?
Well, we have a legislature, I think, person. I think they should probably, one of them, take it upon themselves to go, can they choose which area they want to be in? I don't know that.
Well, I'm not talking about necessarily changing the process of where people are elected to, but rather inviting a representative here to talk with us. I know that not only is there the legislation that you're talking about, but there's state legislation right now that if it passes, the state of New Hampshire will accept no unfunded mandates from the federal government. They're saying we will no longer take on the responsibility of meeting your goals with our dollars. And I think that's an important thing, especially in those left behind.
No child left behind. Just to answer your question, Mrs. Jablonski, the legislators often say to the House leadership or the Senate leadership, I would like to serve on this committee, Fish and Game, or Education, or whatever it might be. And they, then those folks in leadership make those appointments. They just don't sign up and say, oh, I want to be on that, because they may not be picked to be on those committees. But to encourage our local reps to really engage in education, I think would be terrific.
And I don't mind on behalf of the Budget Committee, if the Budget Committee would like, is to extend an invitation for both the state and the federal representatives to come and talk for 15 minutes, and so that we could tell them that it is a serious concern
We need
of ours.
representation. We need people to help us.
And so
Don't you think?
I do.
I think you should run.
No.
Lorraine.
No.
Well, are there other, yes, Rick?
I would like the school board to readdress a couple of categories. One is the merit increase. With Kathy leaving, any new person coming in is not going to have the ability, she has the ability, but not have really the opportunity to get to know all the people who are going to be, potential receivers of that. And some of it is going to be for her, I know that. I think part of that
You want to
should
give me a
be-
raise before I leave? Is that what you said? Am I hearing you right?
No.
I didn't think so.
I'm just saying that I think that's an area.
We removed that, Rick. We removed the
All of the
merit,
merit?
no, we removed the merit increase for the superintendent's office, and we also, superintendent's position, and we also removed the merit for the principal at the high school. So those two merit
Matter with
pools.
Mrs. Brooks.
Mrs. Brooks has resigned.
Has she
Yes,
really?
Mrs. Brooks was planning on retiring 2 years ago, but we kept her feet to the fire and held on a little bit longer, but she's resigned.
All right, do we have those reductions?
Yes,
They are.
yes, that's on that spreadsheet that Sue gave you.
Okay.
The decision whether the merits for the existing positions, the new superintendent would have throughout the year to do that. They could wait till the year in June, but that, again, that's a decision the board has to
I'm
make.
not, merit increase, I'm really not for
Is this the same
this
as the
environment, but that's another story, I guess. The other thing is postage, not postage, travel and conferences. the total for next year is gonna be $55,000. This is a tough economy. Do you think we could do something in an area like that, or dues and, I mean, subscriptions? I mean, I know in business, when things were tough, those are the first few areas that we went to immediately and cut to save some money on.
I'd like to speak, if I could, to both of those
Sure.
things. First, merit. The superintendent spoke to her merit increase, which certainly isn't appropriate on her exit. But I think I heard you say that the replacement superintendent wouldn't have known the folks long enough, what have you, to adequately assess that. First of all, I need to make it clear that merit pay would be, and always has been, something that's approved directly by the board. There's a discussion that occurs with that. So that isn't a decision made in the box by that new superintendent. Further, I'd offer that it's a challenging time for the rest of the staff when your leadership changes. So to categorically take a merit increase off the table for the people that are there in a more difficult situation is non-motivating. I'll just leave it at that. Moving to the other topic of conferences and that type of thing, we just on Thursday, and I encourage you to, if you have opportunity, to watch or listen to the presentation made by the accounting firm that audits our books. He spoke at great length about the changes that have already occurred, Gatsby, and I don't know, I guess that number keeps ticking with every year new legislation or happens, which essentially keeps lowering the bar as to the level of detail that those audits need to take. What you spoke about a $10,000 situation in your office. Well, that's the kind of thing that bar is very different in the school district municipal budget world, where they're now having to audit smaller and smaller things that one might say there's limited return on that investment of time because the numbers are just so small. But due to the drivers that are out there from public accountability requirements, those are very strong needs. And to stay abreast of where we are currently, and I have to compliment our staff in that we've led the curve on implementation of that program, and there's a new standard, which is a whole nother alphabet soup that's coming down.
112 or something like that.
That is going to require another level of training and another level of looking at the data, such that the accountant auditor that was here was recommending that we increase our staff so that we can best look at those numbers. So when you say that you're concerned about training and going to conferences, these are critical things.
I didn't say anything about training. I
Okay.
said conferences. You have a category called travel and conferences, and I just have a problem with it. I'm just asking. Don't have a problem.
Well, and I'm so glad to hear you, Cliff, talk about the world of accounting and public accounting, because I know in private accounting, we had Sarbanes-Oxley. It really turned everything upside down. And standards now that I'm seeing in public accounting are even tighter, are even higher than and they should be. They're public dollars. But the words that you used about adding accounting staff, it has amazed me. The two part-time people in Sioux have been able to handle a $12 million budget, fund accounting, 225-person payroll, payables, purchase order requests, asset tags. It is just a credit to the skills of the people, because as you know, Lorraine, and you pointed it out, you haven't done the work for a while. You have to integrate all of this electronic technology to be able to move all these transactions in a way that everybody can look all the way. And you know, Lois, from asking a question to find the piece of paper, it's a challenge when you have all these documents, the invoice. I would like to see, that's what exists in accounting now. I want the original documentation, and I want from the summary page, as you talk about, Rick, when I see the summary, $15 million, $10 million worth of expense, I want to be able to go find that $5,000 invoice. Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that there could be a need for staff to go ahead and keep the records accurate.
And you talk about each, I'm sorry.
Leo, were you gonna?
Just on what you said, I would like to say if we have more of a breakdown in the budget, then we'll know exactly what the 5,500 is for. At that time, it was not broken down, so.
Right.
that was-
And it is broken down in the detail pages, so you'll know, what each conference is.
no, I was-
And it's interesting that, and I think that where Cliff is coming from is, it's interesting that Rick, that you pointed specifically to these conferences, because that's exactly what our auditor pointed to when he was here Thursday night and said, we need to make sure we go to these conferences. So it's interesting.
So a couple
and-
final thoughts.
Sure.
You mentioned all the different, or several of the different areas that at the SAU office they need to pay attention to on the financial basis. If I call Sue and say, hey, I've got a question about something, I think probably the first question she asked me, or is going through her mind is he talking about last year's budget that is being audited presently, the one we're living in now, or the one that's under proposal? That's her world all the time. It's a rolling 3-year world. So there's a level of complexity there that it's rather astounding, and it's much appreciated how well it's handled. Lastly, with respect directly to this, we've got over 200 staff. The expense that we have for conferences is around $275 per person, per employee on average. That's not a trip to Manhattan. That's
Bronson Staten?
Now-
Song, never mind.
Now, the reality is there are no junkets. Now, in my world in
Absolutely.
manufacturing, when you see it, for example, I went to a software conference. My company sent me to a software conference. It was at Las Vegas, okay? I spent every moment while I was there in a meeting. I came back tired. I gave a presentation, it covered half the costs. But I learned about the software that we use to manage our company. I learned about how to use it and what the changes were going to be made and how to use it better. I mean, I don't know how in education, educators can teach without continuing their education.
I'm not talking about not continuing education, but you just raised a point, and I agree with it 100%. If one person goes, they can go back and tell everybody else what it's all about. You can hold a meeting and talk about it. Not everybody has to go, and you're $200 per person.
And every year,
I
everyone
imagine
doesn't
that's in
go.
the contract too, so but it just, and I'm being facetious, and I know I am, but I'm just looking at areas that possibly we may be able to cut back on. Since, anything I would say would be negative, and I apologize for that.
It shouldn't always be interpreted as negative. You mentioned earlier, your role in the budget committee is to look at the school budget and the ability of the community to pay and try to find a balance. That's my role too. Yes, granted, my perspective might be a little bit different because I'm a little bit closer to the day-to-day function in the school, and I'm certainly not involved in the day-to-day function, but I'm closer to it. So, and it's a particular passion for me. But just know that that's our job too. That's why I got involved as well, is not because the goal is to maximize what we can get. It's to find that right balance where everyone is well served. Thanks.
Just a final note,
the final budget increase, after all the numbers and review, and the final review last Thursday evening by the school board was 2.7. Okay? So you have a sheet, Sue's done a, did you?
It's-
So,
no, it's
so
2.93.
we will be getting an updated sheet.
No?
No, we have it, okay.
Sue has a
The
sheet. She
2
can-
yeah, but it's because of some revenue issues.
Okay,
So,
okay. So it's
So-
2.7 because there's been some revenue improvements.
no, no.
It's 2.7 because when you incorporate the entire budget, food service and everything else, it brings it down to 2.7. That's the sheet right there, you're talking about, right, Linda?
Yeah.
The basis changed. And there's plenty of copies for all those who are in attendance of the meeting. And there are copies at the administrative office for any listeners who would like to. I will say that it's dated as 1/4 and subject to change as we move closer to the school board meeting. It's a good summary. It outlines not only a fully voted budget, but a default budget, so, and it's done in a nice format that we're familiar with, which includes tax impact information in the lower left-hand corner. And I would encourage anyone that has any interest on the budget before the vote to get a hold of one of these pieces of paper and review it so that they have a good understanding of what they're voting on.
So you're saying the increase on the taxes for this year would be 64 cents, or am I reading this incorrectly? So,
Given the same situation with assessment, which I have not increased assessment, it would be. But in the past, I've included additional assessment, and this year, when I spoke with Don, he indicated that Ed Winowski had not included any additional assessment when they set their tax rate, so I didn't. Last year, I used $9 million. And there was, I think, 14. There was an additional 14, so that'll bring that rate down. So that's kind of your worst-case scenario if everything were to stay the same, but we know that won't happen. So it will be probably less than the 64 cents.
I have to ask a different question because it's the first time I've been involved. The
Absolutely.
town said that the overall increase would be 80 cents at their budget setting rate. Is this part of that number?
No.
No, it's
No.
separate.
So technically speaking, it's 80 and 64 is a
Plus the county, right?
Right. And
Plus the
count.
county.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We can only talk to you about the school's budget.
That's
We
right.
can't
No,
talk
no,
to you
no, I'm
about the
just-
towns.
But-
I'm just trying to understand.
And that's good, that we understand that there are three components to our tax rate. And that when we look at one, there are two more to look at also. Any other questions at this time? I know we've, thank you for the consistency and the presentation. We can certainly ask if they come up later. I know in my world, I'm always uncomfortable when I receive something and then am asked to work with it. I need to read it, I need to go home and sleep on it, and then I need to come back.
Well, I'd like to mention one other thing.
Sure.
I know that on the advisors' salaries, you've cut out 3,500 already as a total. But that seems to me an awful lot of clubs and classes, roots and shoots and knitting club and everything else. You mentioned that there are fewer children in music, so you don't need another salaried individual. But I would think with these, that we have no idea how many attend each one of these. And there might be 2 in the chess club and 5 in SAD or whatever.
Well, we don't do it that way. We can't do
Well,
that.
I think we're offering far too many, 31 clubs. And I think this could be reduced to just those that are usually most attended. I know you're going to tell me that it changes, it waves, they make different choices each year. But Spanish and French, National Honor Society, high school student council, I think that's important, junior high student council. I can't see that that's, and a junior high yearbook, high school yearbook, yes, but, and what do we need a senior, junior, sophomore, freshman class advisor for? Roots and Shoots, which is recycling, I don't know, some of these are very frivolous, and we're spending a lot of money for, I think perhaps not a great number of the population of students are participating in these. And I think this could be brought down to maybe 10 clubs, if one really looked this over.
Well,
Go ahead.
That's just
Yeah, well,
one.
first of all, those are, and I think that we've spoke to this a couple of times too, that list of clubs is not the list that we offer. It's a potential list of clubs that we will offer. So, if you want to go one by one and talk about each club, we can certainly do that. We're happy to do that. For example, you just said, junior, class advisors. Why is that? That seems frivolous. Oh my gosh, then you don't know what those class advisors do. You have to remember that each class is responsible for raising monies for things like their prom, for their graduation, for the senior banquet, and they need adult supervision usually it's required. Like, for example, if they're going to sell Christmas trees at the Irving, the kids can't just go by themselves. They have to have their class advisor with them. The Irving won't let them sell their Christmas trees there.
Well, of course, these aren't explained out. Each one of them are not explained, so.
And that's
some
what
of
I'm
us
saying.
would not
If
know why they're
if there are some that you need to talk about to find things like that out, we're happy to do that.
But I don't know that these advisors are needed year-round. Maybe for certain activities, but I don't know. We're an advisory a group, that's all we are. So I'm
Well, I
just-
appreciate your input. I just want to give you a little bit of information. One, we know from research that the most important time for students after school, it's critically important that students are engaged. Those are the times when it's evidence that students who are engaged in after-school activities are more productive in school. It's clear, they've done the research. So when you have children engaged in after-school things, it improves in their academics. That's number one. Number two is in Newmarket, there must be at least 10 students in an organization in order for it to exist. So what I did with the last time when we cut some money out of that, I asked Mrs. Brooks and Mr. Andruski to go back, look at all of their clubs and clubs that perhaps haven't had enough students to enroll. We cut them out. We reduced that. So that's why you saw a reduction in that. We went back and looked at that. So again, it would be one of the places that we would struggle to reduce, given the numbers of students who are engaged in not only our after-school activities and clubs and organizations like the National Honor Society, but our athletic program.
Well, you see, that's where I don't agree with you with number one, because I don't think that's the job of the school system, to keep these children interested and active in different programs. I just don't think that's a part of it. If there were more offered in tutoring or something like this, fine, but that's just my opinion. Okay.
And we thank you for that. It's really important that we hear all the voices. Are there other areas of the school budget? I know we've sort of gone off and had great conversations about doing good work in the future. We have a school warrant. Have people had the opportunity to glance at the school warrant?
Well, I think we ought to at least get an explanation of the schools, why their reason for doing this anyway, whether we act on it today or not, I think we ought to at least hear that.
Start the conversation.
Yeah, to at least get the conversation going on these items.
Okay, well, do we want to go through each warrant article
Yes.
at this
Yes,
point?
I
Okay.
think.
Warrant Article 1 is to appropriate the sum of $3 million for the purpose of purchasing land and to authorize the issuance of, well, do you want me to read the whole thing, or do you want me to just?
Pardon?
Do you want me to read the whole warrant?
No,
Okay.
just it's brief overview of it, highlight points.
Okay, so, as you know, it's been a priority, to address the facility situation, and, once again, we're trying to address that by, right now, we're hoping to, purchase some land.
Do we know what
Unfortunately,
land?
we're
We
in
have a piece-
negotiations right now, and we can't, we don't
So
have.
You have a piece of land?
We have,
You're looking at,
we are,
okay.
we are in negotiations, so hopefully, clearly, we need to have the purchase and sales agreement in place before this warrant article goes out, but we're hoping that that will be the case.
So you expect to have it
We're-
by
we're-
the
Yes,
deliberative session
correct,
or by the voting session?
correct.
Well, we have to post our warrant by January 28th, so, but clearly, we have a bond hearing January 14th, so we're very close. We're in negotiations with the landowner, and it's really been between their attorney and our attorney, and we feel that we'll have a number and a purchase and sales ready to go for the community to address. Apologize for not having it done, but that's negotiations.
Article 2 is $225,000 for installation of an elevator at the junior, senior high school. As you know, we're really not ADA compliant and need to be, and that's the purpose of.
Can I just ask where that would go in the school, or?
In the,
Yeah, that will go currently where that chair lift is and that stairwell. We've already had our engineers look at it. It's a smaller, and we'll have a public hearing. We'll have the details. We'll actually have the drawings. It will only be for students. It's a very small one. It's not one of the regular size
Right.
elevators that would carry materials and things. It's
That would
just
be
for
my next
students,
question.
disabled students.
Okay.
I go inside the existing building?
Yes. In that stairwell, do you know where that is, Leo?
The old stairwell?
It's the first one when you're going down the hallway, and you come in from the front by the office. It's that stairwell that goes upstairs.
it's one where the chairlift is now.
The chair is currently
know?
there, inoperable.
Let's see, warrant 3 is $255,000 for portable classrooms.
Where would those go on the property?
We looked, we had some engineers in, and the folks from the company. We will be using what the students call the senior parking lot. That's when you come into the building, you go around by Lamprey, come around the back, and then there's a parking lot that would be off to your left.
Yep.
We will put the portables in there. That would allow us we may have to limit student parking to only seniors, but that's,
Yeah.
That's what happens. And we would still have enough room for our faculty parking lot, who park up at the top as you exit the school. So, given that, we counted the number of parking spaces we had out back. We felt we could do seniors and faculty and put those there. It's the only place we could put them. We looked at putting them out back, but there wouldn't be enough for emergency, like off of the back gym, but there wouldn't be enough for the emergency vehicles, fire, police, ambulance, and we couldn't put them. We actually met with the Department of Transportation, the DOT, and we're not far enough away. We could have put them out on the front where the front lawn is, but we couldn't use that because we're not enough footage from center line, because it's a state road and we have a certain compliance. So the only place left was the senior parking.
How far would these be from the existing building?
Well, when you think about it, you know where, I never did measure the footage, Leo, I'll have to do that, but it's,
100 feet probably.
yeah, probably about 100, 125 feet, depending on where you're coming out of. If you're exiting the gym, it's a little closer. If you're coming out of the front door, it's,
So you'd be going out into the weather.
right. We know that right now we have 8 classrooms. This isn't even still enough, but we're trying to, share, we are sharing classrooms. But this will allow our teachers who don't have classrooms and space, and also those staff members who are in absolutely inadequate facilities, ESOL and our speech and language program, and we're sharing, 4 teachers are sharing 1 classroom now, our special ed. Our school to career program is in a closet. We just have to do something there. So that's our proposal.
Do you know,
And we only, the board decided to do a 3-year lease program for these, so we'll lease them. We will not own them.
you said the teachers that are sharing classrooms, so those will be the teachers that will get those portable
Well,
classrooms?
not
or do you-
necessarily. That'll leave to the administration, but let me give you an example. We know that only 1 of our 3 foreign language teachers has a classroom. So we decided, Mrs. Brooks suggested at this point, but it's not finalized,
Right.
but one of the thoughts was we would put foreign language there so that they would be together along with the ESOL program. So there's 4
Makes sense,
classrooms.
yeah.
It makes sense. So we'll do that kind of clustering.
Right.
We're not just going to say, okay, you are on, like we have an art teacher who has no classroom. Well, we're going to take the foreign language classroom that's next to the art room and make that her classroom. So do you see, we'll be doing some shifting within the building, but that'll be left to the administrators to do. They best know that.
Well, these classrooms can handle how many students?
They're 900 square foot classrooms. Yes, that's by, yeah, and that's by, you have to have that.
Is that,
And that will be adequate. That will meet the state requirement for square footage per student.
What
well,
amenities?
in other
and-
words, these,
Excuse me, Leo, just please.
Sorry.
well, I thought I was asking a question,
Yeah,
I
I'm
hadn't
sorry.
finished my answer yet.
Oh, I apologize. I know Lois had her hand been, so after you, then Lois. I
Oh, okay.
apologize.
I guess the question is, you're talking about these special languages and whatever, are they number of students you have in these special language classrooms? I mean, 10, 20, 30?
Oh, right. In
5,
foreign
or-
language classrooms in Spanish and French, our enrollment averages between 22 and 26 students. So we're absolutely in desperate need. Obviously, the ESOL classroom is a little bit small. The numbers are a little bit small. Those are English speakers of other languages. So in any time during the day, you could have 5 kids. You could have 15 kids. It depends on her grouping.
Okay, thank you.
What amenities and utilities does each portable classroom have?
Well, we because it's high school and because children are changing classes, we're not installing any amenities, bathrooms, that kind of thing. If it were in an elementary school, you have to put bathrooms and water in, but we don't have to do that in these portables. So they are less expensive because they are high school and kids will be in and out of them all day long. But we will still obviously have to hook up electricity, power, the regular kinds of utilities, along with our alarm system, fire alarm systems and so forth. But we don't have to have as great a need in those high school portables as we would in an elementary.
Thank you.
Those will be locked all the time, won't they, when the kids
Sure.
are in there?
Yep. As we have in all of our buildings, the security is critically important. These portables will be able to be locked at all times. Children will be secure in those buildings. And as you know, we have cameras outside of our building, in the front and in the back parking lot, as well as in our buildings. So we will continue to use that as a security.
Are there other questions about the? Yes, Bill.
You entertain a question from the public?
Absolutely.
It seems to me we had portable classrooms already. What happened to those?
We have 2 portable classrooms. They're of vintage of 1984, and those are currently at the elementary school.
They being used?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There was never, to my knowledge, any portable classrooms at the high school. There's never been them. Historically speaking, I went back, I never saw any. Some of you have been around longer than I have.
Well, I heard someplace that we were gonna replace them because they were 20 years old.
Well, there was,
I said, "Did I replace my house when it was 20 years old?" You know, I
Well-
maintained my house.
they're not a house and they don't have the same standards, but I hear you, but these are not being replaced. There are 2 portables at the elementary school that if you looked at your CIP, you'll see that at some point they need to be replaced. They are already 15, 22 years old, and they were purchased used. So we've gotten a good run out of those.
Yeah, we've had them that long.
Right. We've had them 22 years, and they were purchased used.
So,
Other questions on that warrant article?
okay, so our Articles 4, 5, and 6, 6 and 7 are all our capital reserve expendable trust funds. I don't know if you have any specific questions on any of those.
Those are they're pretty consistent over the years. These are what, am I correct? These are going to build these reserve funds.
Correct.
So that this reserve fund handout is related to these warrant
Correct.
articles.
Just for your clarification, Article number 4 on capital reserve, there is no cap on it. The board voted not to put a cap on it. It's a facility, so, I mean, we've got $1 million there now, but we got a long way to go. Article 6, which is the expendable trust fund for school facilities, they put a cap of $250,000 on that. They also voted on Article number 7, which is the technology, to do 200, no. Was it 250?
I think we did 250.
250 on that, and the special ed one, 250.
So then, for this document, there's a couple of
Article 4,
typos.
no cap. Article 5, $250,000 cap. Article 6, same, and Article 7. Those, they just determined.
In other words, you're saying that the vote was taken, but it's not.
Right, but the board, I mean, they didn't want to put that verbiage on these warrant articles, but many of you had asked them to consider a cap,
So for
and they
planning
did,
purposes-
and they voted on it, and I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay.
Can I ask a question
Oh,
about,
absolutely.
going back to Article 1, the purchase of the land? I know and I can't talk, but what's the land gonna be used for?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Future school expansion.
Well,
You know, one of the problems that we've had is that the community had, many years ago, opportunity to purchase land around, even around the current high school. And, you know, the times they didn't do it. And so the school district has no available land for the future. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a year or 2 years. But the school board believes, and Linda can articulate this, that they need to purchase land for future school expansion, should the community need that.
okay, and is that land gonna be used for the construction of a new school, elementary or high school, whatever it may be, or?
Should that decision be made? That's not a decision that they're going to make.
I guess my other question is, what happens if they don't vote to use that?
Then the school district will hold that land.
You know,
But-
there are other things that we need land for, you know, not just the facility itself, but for the field space, et cetera. So, you know, clearly we're in early discussions, but it is certainly one of our goals and hopes that we can collaborate on this piece of land with the town recreation department, with the Nature Conservancy, et cetera. So, I mean, we have, you know, some high hopes that this is really going to be a collaborative effort.
It was interesting that you brought up the point about the recreation department looking for a facility, a gym space, and clearly with my discussions with Jim Hilton is that should the school district build a school, we would add a gym. That would now give us 2 gyms. It would give us the gymnasium for whatever facility is built along with the current facility. That would meet their recreation master plan. If you read their recreation master plan, that's in there.
I
We
did
would,
read it.
right, we would be able to collaborate with them, and as Linda said, the fields is in dire need here in Newmarket.
Can you mention how large a piece of land this is?
At this time, I'd really rather not. Obviously, there's not a lot of land in Newmarket,
No.
as you know.
You had mentioned a Nature Conservancy is involved in it as well?
We're saying, no, I said that I'm hoping that it will be. We're hoping that this is, like I said, going to be a very collaborative effort with many groups in town.
That's how it's done today.
Yeah.
Are there other questions on the warrant article? Yes, Bill?
Isn't the warrant article required to tell you what piece of land?
No.
No.
You want to buy just land in period, land in general?
Basically, if the people don't know what the land is at the time of the vote, a good chance they won't vote for it. So hopefully, they will know that at the time and then can make a decision as to whether they think it's worth it or not. But to probably say, you want $3 million and we don't know what we're buying, or we don't want to tell them what we're buying, it probably would have a tough time passing, but hopefully they're indicating that by the time that people come to vote.
But you remember that the town had a warrant article in the early 2000 for an appropriation of $2 million for the purpose of buying land for conservation and for open space. Now, when the town voted on that article, they did not know what land was going to be purchased with that money. So, but the goal of the board, Mr. Connors, is to have a very clear understanding of what that piece of property is. Because we feel like Leo that that's going to be helpful in selling it.
And I really appreciate the conversation, the questions. Yes, people are more comfortable when they know what's being purchased specifically, but they're also comfortable when they know what the purpose is, as the example of land conservation, so that the opportunity to vote can be both ways. It can be, we've missed opportunity in the past to buy land. We're going to buy land because we'll need it in the future. What's it for? Land conservation. What's it for? Educational purposes, whether it be recreational or building. So it's good. Other questions, comments? I have on the next item here is just a quick conversation about reviewing the role of this committee in the short-term financial review committee that's being talked about at the town level. They're talking about convening a short committee that's going to review financial process in the town, and I just wanted to ask if there are any members of this committee that would be interested in being involved in that town committee, which would be my conversation with Ed this morning. It'll be a short-term committee. It'll be for a defined length of time, and it will be to review all that's going on right now and help us to move forward in our financial processes.
When would that committee meet? Is it during the daytime or?
I have no details about it, only it's in conversation now, and if there are interested parties from this committee, I would recommend that you contact Ed directly. Still trying to figure out the details on the length of time it'll take to do the work. So I will let Ed know that we've talked about it and there are some possible interests from here. Budget Committee schedule. I'd like to thank Rick. He has done an admirable job of a very difficult process. I'd like to apologize to Mike, who was not able to be here because the town budget committee meeting is going on at the same time. Does everybody have a copy of the schedule? I have schedules here that I can hand out.
We'll pass it down this way, Rick.
2, 3, and there are more here for other people.
I got them all over the place, but I keep losing them.
Yeah, and I printed off, I have a couple more. Everybody have one? There's a couple of more here.
I'll take 2.
Okay, thank you. Here's 3. And I really do want to extend appreciation to both the town and the school for working so diligently to keep the meetings separate so that we can all be about the best work. Are there, now the other thing to understand is that a lot of this is driven by state regulation. You have to hold a meeting within a certain period of time on a certain. Are there any changes to this schedule at this time that we know? And if after the meeting, anybody sees anything that is a question, just send me an email, or actually send Rick and I an email, please. It would not be fair. I try very hard to reply to emails, to include Rick in them as vice chair, and to include the party that has sent the email.
Did I hear that there's gonna be a special hearing for?
Yeah, I was just going to say that, January 14th.
Okay.
There will be a public hearing on the bond, for the purpose, and obviously, you've seen the warrant, there's only one issue, and that would be, should we reach a successful conclusion, it would be on the land.
January 14th?
14, 7 o'clock in the Town Hall auditorium, and it will also be broadcast live on Channel 13.
Okay. January 14th, bond hearing, 7 PM, Newmarket Town Auditorium.
And that's the school department?
Yes, yes, that's the a bond hearing for land.
Is that something we should go to as a committee, or
I
do we need to, or?
I don't think we need to go as a committee. I would encourage committee members, if they're able in their
So
schedule.
therefore, this doesn't need to go as a change on this list, then?
No, no,
Okay.
no, and it's actually probably too late. Maybe as an afterthought, next time we update the list, this will become a historical document. Maybe it's nice to add it to it as an afterthought the next time. Or pen and ink it. It doesn't, it really doesn't matter, but to have a historical record, I think, is important.
That is required that it will also be a discussion item at the Budget Committee public hearing also, even though it has its own, we also have to include it during our public hearing when we do the whole.
Right on January 10th.
budget. So we'll have 2 hearings.
Perfect lead-in to the next item for discussion on this, because, Leo, you swapped some emails with me, and Ed has communicated clearly about this process, the budget process. Should we talk about that a little more here? I know there. Well, my style has always been to be collaborative and to do things as we've done them in the past. Now, we know we had this public speaker come who has talked about processes where a budget committee has been more authoritative and taken a lead role in it. I think in our world, the school board and the budget committee sit together, they face the audience, they face the camera. We may, as a school board, I as the chairman, may read some things, but defer to people that have specific knowledge in the area, and welcome comments and comments by every member of the budget committee that's there. That's my style, very collaborative, to make sure all the voices are heard, and to make sure that all the questions are answered. Now, I think the town side is just a little bit different. The last time I remember meeting, I think we had the financial director, the town manager, and maybe the town council chair, not the entire. And we actually, it was more of a sit around the table and review everything, and then we had the budget committee meeting afterwards, and we took action on, and it was a warrant article review was one of the sessions. And then I get lost in my memory on what exactly happened, but I remembered that them not being that formal table out front. I think both styles work.
Well, are you talking about the budget committee public hearing on the budget, or are you talking about the deliberative session portion now?
Well, for the town,
For the public, for the budget committee public hearing on the budget. That is not run by the moderator or anything like that.
right, it's
Right.
not, it's run by the budget committee
Just by the
chair.
budget committee chair and the budget committee, and the town council can be there also, and,
If they would like.
yeah, right, okay.
Right.
So that,
Right. Now, in the school board side, the school board likes to be there.
yeah,
On the town side, I don't think that the whole town council has been there in the past, just the town manager, the financial person, and one
so
representative.
we're not talking about any change in that process.
No, we're not.
We're talking about a change in the deliberative session process.
The deliberative session, I would continue to hold the deliberative session in the same style and fashion that we always have.
So that's different than what Ed recommended.
Maybe we have something new in the town side of the deliberative session since he's here.
No, I guess he said, just like the speaker said, is that in most all, and by statute, if not by precedence, is that the budget committee presented the budget to the deliberative session. The budget chair and the budget committee presented the budget, because that is the, if you see RSA 3211, it is the duty of the budget committee to present a budget to the deliberative session. Now,
And I don't remember in detail, but if I last year read, and if it means that this year the chairperson reads it, we will read it. We will read it. Now, the players that are there during the deliberative session
Explain.
can be, for explanation purposes, can be more than the budget committee. And in fact, I would encourage that to be more than the budget committee, because we have hired professionals that we rely on, plus our elected officials to boards and council that we rely on. And I think it's very important that we have as many of us as possible there at the deliberative session, so that the people who elect us get to ask us our questions, and we get to.
yeah, well, the difference there is that there's a moderator who's running the meeting, and he can
For the
say-
deliberative session,
in
if it's the
deliberative
budget,
session.
if it's the budget's deliberative session, the budget chair will moderate the meeting.
Oh, the moderator does.
No, I think Paul Maday's there.
Yeah, in the
We'll,
deliberative
we'll,
session.
we'll look for the moderator to,
Yeah, he has been, last year he was.
Yeah, the moderator is the
Then
one who
that-
runs the deliberative session,
and that's good.
yeah. And
That's good.
so I guess it's the question of, someone should be getting in discussion with the moderator as to who he thinks should or will.
And I thank you, and I will. Yes.
So, our next meeting would be January 10th, the school public hearing on the budget. Are we presenting it to the public, or does the
Yes.
school, we present it, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
let's
we-
change it. Okay, I just want to make sure.
And it's gonna, and the form, fit, and function should be
Gonna be
just
up
the
here?
same as the past. Do we want to do that up here, or are we more comfortable downstairs where, because of the size of the meeting,
Downstairs?
we should,
Yeah.
we're gonna put the tables and, I think collaborative, but I don't think we'll alternate. We'll have a budget on one side and school on the other, and We won't worry about left or right side, we'll do it as we've always done it before. We wouldn't want anybody to be uncomfortable with any visual changes. Now, is there, Leo, and thank you very, very much. Is there other business?
Rod?
Yes.
I assume that the budget committee will have a meeting after the public hearing
Yes.
and vote on the warrants?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
because as you saw, we have
We-
language on our warrant article recommended by, and if the budget committee so chooses to do that, then we'd like to be able to insert that.
And thank you for reminding us that, yes, come prepared, and those of us who are new, we hold that little public meeting, so we get the input of the people that come to the meeting, that ask their questions, and then we can make the best decision, and we do that right afterwards. And Leo, you've been very helpful in the past, because you've sort of walked us through that
Well,
process.
that's if the committee so wishes.
Right.
They have in the past, as soon as the public hearing is done, and once the people clear out, we go into session, but it doesn't have to be done, but
It has to be
previous.
timely though, because I
But
have to post the 27th.
I know,
need your
so you
signature
got,
on it.
I think there's 5 days between, so we have a period of 5 days if we so wish, but in the past, recent past, since I've been on the committee recently, we've done it. Previous back, we didn't do it that way, back in the 70s.
Yeah. The thing that I've noticed in the short time I've been involved is we've been so open and so collaborative in our conversations that we've been comfortable and been able to take a vote at that time, because we've worked so diligently to be prepared to do that. And that it is nice when we can, in all honesty, say, yes, we approve, and to get the work done. So it's okay then that we continue with the same pattern of behavior. We're gonna work really hard to be ready to meet right after the meeting and take action on the warrant articles, so we can move quickly to the printing and deliberative. Uh-oh, you've got the Bible open there, so.
No, I just wanted to, technically, you prepare all of that, but I do that for you.
Yes.
Under your direction, and you
Right.
sign it, so technically that
Right.
is your form, but I
Right.
do prepare that for you.
And I thank you.
Places that needs to go.
And I thank you, because it would take me 5 years to understand that process.
It is confusing, and you're right.
So what did it say after the meeting?
And that reminds me that there'll be forms that we will sign. There'll be prepared forms that all of us as Budget Committee members will sign. And it's the world of legality, it's the world of
What do those
RSAs.
forms say?
I don't know.
I can provide you with a copy of that if you'd like.
I would
have one
appreciate
upstairs. It's called the MS-27.
Them, okay?
Being this is my first time, I would appreciate it.
Because I don't remember what it said last time I looked at it.
Take you to the precinct while you may.
Is
Well, it
the-
might make more sense as to why we present our budget the way we do, because that's where all those numbers come from. They're in conjunction with that form, the 1,100,
And
Once you
that's
see
by
it, you'll-
statute, you have to have the previous 40 years, whatever.
That's an excellent point, and I thank you for making it. That a lot of the things, especially this very thick binder, are driven by processes outside of our control. As much as we would like it to be easier, we've got some book that's thicker than the binder that says, this is the process that you have to follow to comply with the laws in the state. And there's also another book that talks about the federal laws that you have to comply with, which has to do with the other half of the audit that the school goes through. Other business to come before this committee?
Let me ask a
Sure,
different,
sure,
just a technical
sure. Yeah,
question.
yeah.
In the event that the budget committee does not approve the budget, school budget or the town budget or the CIP budget, whatever it may be,
Falls back to
is,
default.
well,
Basically, the thing will say
No.
approved by town council, not approved by budget committee.
Okay, now,
And
if the
then you
budget
then get
committee,
into the 10%
now,
limitation.
if the budget committee is a split vote, is that reflected?
Nope.
Oh, it's just that the town council either, I mean, the budget committee either.
Either,
approves or
the majority either approves it or does not approve it. Regardless, if it's 5-4 against it, then it's against. If it's 5-4 for it, it's for it.
Okay.
Or 6-5, I guess, we should have 11 members. Time.
Yes, it does look like we'll have 11 members at the time. Thank you to Al and to Bill. Is there other business to come before this committee? And any question from the audience? Everybody all set? I want to thank again Al Zick and Bill O'Connor for stepping forward. Bill, I understand we're in process. You'll be sworn in. Al, I understand right behind Becky Benvenuti, the town clerk, will swear you in, and I'll try to get some additional information, timeline. But I would expect, Bill, that you'd be all set for the next meeting, and we'll work to the same extent, Al.
Why don't you get their email or telephone numbers so that after, if Mr. Hollis is agreed to by the town council,
Phone numbers on this.
that's what I said.
Yeah, oh, you did.
Yeah. So we'll work that right through, and that's a good idea, Rick. Yes,
Ted, you can
thank
contact him and tell him we're going to see Becky, that he's been.
Yep.
One final note.
Sure.
At your public hearing on January 10th, you requested of the school board to have a brief presentation by the school district auditors. And so the board met with those auditors last Thursday night and had a sort of an overview of the process. And they have agreed to be there on the 10th, and they would address the community relative to the school district audit. And that was your request. And you also requested that it be done at that public hearing, sir. So I'm just reminding you of that.
Oh,
It's part of your agenda.
I'm glad they made the time available to do that, and I
Yeah.
know that there's a lot of nervousness in that community about liability and conversations that they have, so it's nice that we have an auditor that's willing to do that. I'll
We're
stop
not
by-
nervous about our audit. I want to make that very
No,
clear.
But the auditors are, because I just got done talking with some.
They welcome the opportunity to speak to the communities, and lots of times because of the content, it tends to be dry. But they, in fact, as auditors, welcome the chance to speak to the community.
So,
Yeah,
so
they are, I was gonna say, they are definitely accounting
They're
geeks.
great. They were so interesting.
Yeah,
I was
they
so
were,
glad
that
I
was,
caught
that
them.
was a great presentation.
I'll stop by the office to set the agenda so that it gets set right, and I'll do that Monday morning.
Jeez, I wish we could change books. This thing is
Yeah.
Is there a system on this book? Leo, is there a system?
Wake me up.
Would, sometimes.
I've seen people bang them.
Can I just ask,
Sure,
Kathy?
sure.
How often is
I think
those,
it works.
how long have you had these
You know what you do?
auditors?
Is you put your hand in here and you get that out of line, so.
A year, 2 years, 5
Is
years?
that how it goes?
One of the, here's a dilemma that we have. We're a very small school district. And one of the dilemmas we have is that a lot of companies don't want small districts. They don't, it's cumbersome to them, it's timely, they don't really like to do it. So Sue and I have been talking about an RFP, request for proposal. We think that's important. As you know, we do that. We do that on our insurances, we go out to transportation, we constantly are doing that. One of the dilemmas we've had is that the current auditors that we use have a wonderful reputation, have, obviously you'll see from their credentials, that they serve us very well. We get what we feel is a good bang for our buck in terms of the costs. And so we've been admittedly a bit reluctant to go out into that because, one, we feel no one will bid on it, and in fact, our current auditors would not bid. So I'm we're kind of stuck, and we still are deliberating that very topic, Rick, with our school board.
There is a statute that requires it on the town portion.
But no.
It's either 5 or
Not for,
7
I
years.
know, Leo, and we know that, but not for us, no, we don't have that. You also have to understand that all of our information goes to the Department of Ed. And at the Department of Ed, they also review all of our MS-25, all the forms that you sign and that we sign at the end of the year when we have our expenditures fund balance at the end. And we get audited by the Department of Ed. And so they send to us in the summer any issues and concerns that they may have. So we actually get double audited because of the federal funds, and the state funds.
That's valuable information to know, and maybe what we really ought to have is an outline of, because we have federal funds, so we know we have federal compliance, and what are the
Right.
other agencies and organizations that are giving oversight? Because I do understand the need to go out for quote, and I have heard recently, especially in New Hampshire, there's not a lot of
No.
firms
No,
that
there
will
aren't.
do both towns.
Right.
Towns have.
So it has been, it's a great point, Rick, it has been a dilemma for us.
Well, what about collaboration with the town? And both of you, put out an RFP for both of you to do the budgets.
They're different animals, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they really are.
Different accounting
Yeah.
systems.
They're different animals, aren't
But,
they?
but one of the things that our auditor was talking about at the meeting the other night was, and we were talking about having a committee, budget review committee, et cetera, and that his firm couldn't do it for us because they're our auditors, but his firm does that for other districts. And, that's might be something that we want to consider as well, hiring, another firm to be more hands-on day-to-day, giving us advice. And then our auditors that we have now will continue to just audit our, so.
But, Linda's thinking there is the famous MONEY. It's going to be more
Exactly.
money to do that
Exactly.
double layer of auditing when I feel that we have the Department of Ed, that we have our current auditors, as well as we have on-site evaluations by all of our federal projects. Next, in the next month or so, Title I, which we receive over $130,000, they are coming in and they are doing an evaluation. We also have every 3 years, our special ed department is done, and all of our finances and all of our programs are audited. So I
think it's important.
it's a different beast, the school
It
department.
is, but just, I guess, I wanted to make it known that is definitely an option, and given the current situation here in town, if we hear from the town, we want you to do that. That is something that's on the table, something that is certainly a possibility, and, it will cost, it'll cost money, but
it's
boy, will it be a great education
Maybe it's
for.
worth finding out what
Yeah.
it costs, and maybe it's worth finding out when you go out for with your request for quote, maybe it's worth collecting the I'm not interested returns. Maybe it's really a good process to go through to find out what type of a corner we have ourselves in. Because most recently I was at the New Hampshire Society of Accountants educational planning meeting, and my eyes were illuminated by the changes in the world of accounting and auditing. On the other regard, I'm really wondering, we're going to have our auditor come and talk, and that'll be wonderful. But at the same time, if we could have a PowerPoint document maybe that we could show of all those other audits of types that we go through in a 3-year cycle, so people could really understand,
Yeah, we couldn't get that ready for Thursday.
Thank you for
I
telling me that.
understand what you need,
No,
but, whoa.
no, okay, no, but
But-
on the agenda then, that it become a record that not only the school board, but the taxpayer is able to understand that, yes, our funds are being watched by many people.
And I think I don't really have much faith in the audits done by Department of Revenue Administration or whatever. They have so much to do, and you look at how fast they go through an audit, you don't know which 1 or 2 pages they looked at, and it's just that.
I didn't mention that one, Leo.
Pardon?
I didn't mention the Department of Revenue. I mentioned the
Oh, no, I
Department of
know,
Ed.
but I'm saying they all have so much to do and so little time to do it and so little staff to do it that I really do not put that much faith in an outfit that
But
is-
you know what? Think about it, though. It's coupled together. It's
Yeah, I
not just
know,
that
I
one.
know.
It's ours, and it's the review by the feds, and it's the program audits.
know,
So I mean, if I were the only thing, I'd say to you, I would agree with you. But it isn't. It's one of many pieces that evaluates and audits the books.
I'm saying some of the pieces are more
Questionable?
Not as thorough.
accurate than
Not as
others.
thorough.
Yeah, and but I mean, even I've read our previous audits in town, I mean, they've actually come with conclusions that you are violating RSA 32, you overspent your budget by 130,000, you shouldn't have done it. End of it. Nobody picked up on it, anywhere, so, I mean, here, what good is the audit if no one looks at it?
But that's not the fault of the audit. That's the fault of the people
I agree.
who are doing the management.
A big fault of it,
Motion to
determines to the budget committee that
Is there a
didn't watch
second?
it either.
Not till he finishes talking.
But we had a motion to, oh, excuse me. Leo, anything
Well
further?
done.
Motion to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Hey, I caught that email. I was gonna reply to